Giselle Loisbane was accused of being a witch. The man shouted that she should be punished, but the lady just smiled and asked if her opponent had brought poison. Then the girl asked to try to kill her. And also, don't be selfish. She snatched the poison and began to drink. The stranger had heard that Giselle was crazy, and today he was convinced that it was true. After drinking the poison, the blonde reported that it tasted like a strawberry smoothie. One eye fell in horror, because he was told that a drop of this poison would send any person to hell. It was strange that it did not work. Deciding that he had made a mistake, the man tried to splash a drop onto his tongue, but this did not end in success, so blood began to flow like a fountain from behind the fool's mouth. Finally, the guy asked how the witch did it. Giselle Loisbane. This is the name of the villainess from the novel The Poison Apple. The girl read this novel only because it was for work. A work about the other world, where at the end the main characters die. The secondary hero villain dies first. She was defeated by the protagonist, her death being poisoned by the killer before being hanged. And on the way home after work, the girl had an accident and became this villain herself. When she woke up, she was already behind bars, where the killer arrived to poison her. But, unfortunately, his poison simply did not work on the heroine, and the killer died very stupidly. After that situation, killers came to her many more times, but their poison still had no effect on the villainess. The killers of this world were very stupid, because time after time, they decided to test the poison on themselves. At first, the girl was very hesitant, reluctant to drink the strange liquids. But then I got used to it, and so that no one would force me, I drank without any extra hassle. Continuing to drink them, the lady realized that they also had different tastes. At first, the soldiers thought that Giselle had killed these killers, calling her a witch. But realizing that the killers themselves drank the poison, they simply left her behind. The blonde at first thought that so many killers were sneaking up because of poor security, but then it turned out that they were simply bribed. For the lady, this world was disgusting, because the most offensive thing was that she turned into a villain. All that remained was to sit in prison and wait for her death. She was already hoping that the next killer would bring poison that would definitely affect her. But suddenly, while thinking about this, laughter was heard out of nowhere. The witch thought it was a side effect of the poisons. The girl began to scream that there might be ghosts here, to which the man replied that this was not the case at all. Seeing him, the blonde asked to wait a little, because she had recently drunk poison, but he said that there was not much of it, so drinking would not be any hindrance. There was no point in rushing, because it wouldn't work anyway, so the lady got angry and shouted that she needed to wait. But the smell from this liquid emanated terrible. It seems that it was spoiled, or the death of the blue-eyed one was already here. The witch wondered if she had not died from poisons all this time, and whether there was a chance that she would not die from it. But still, if the poison does not work, then only the gallows awaits Giselle, and she will die here anyway. But this was clearly not wanted. Noticing that this killer had some abilities, the lady asked that she drink him, but he would do her a favor. The girl made a condition that if she did not die, then that guy would save her. It was impossible to just sit and wait for death. She would then think about the future. But first, she had to get out of the dungeon. Then, the man asked if she would survive if she got out of here. Everyone knows her as a witch, and if the lady runs away, she will be wanted. Especially since she has no family, no one will help her. The killer suggested whether it would be easier to just die here. But the lady said that there was no need to escalate it, because even though she is a witch, she is not the only villain in this world. Giselle said that if some people think that the blonde is an evil witch, then she needs to properly live up to the status of the villain. But in response to her words, he only grinned, saying that if he was interested in it, he would say so. She tried to remember the name of the killer, calling him Wayne. But suddenly, the man asked if the prisoner knew him. His voice changed, and he himself declared that he would help the lady die. The girl noticed that he had the keys to the cage. He took the dagger and swung it, saying that this witch was the enemy of his bride, so she must die a painful death. The blonde decided to run away, because otherwise she would definitely die. Realizing that dying from a dagger would be more painful than from poison, she began to drink what they gave her. Giselle began to shout, screaming, that she drank poison and that killer could act. The lady had hope, because the man promised to help her if she did not die. The magician stated that he did not promise at all, but said that he would think about it. Some kind of black magic began to take over the maniac's body, and he immediately reported that it was interesting. The killer disappeared, and the lady was surprised to see magic. The assassin mage appeared right in front of her, scratching the back of his head awkwardly. He smiled, saying that he was a mercenary. It was strange that he suddenly decided to show her his face. The witch could not help but notice that her killer was very handsome. The man bowed, getting down on one knee, and then said that he was very glad to meet you. He took the bottle to look, and the lady already realized that he was just as stupid, who most likely wanted to test the poison on himself. But the killer said he was sure the poison was working. The blonde was glad that there was finally a killer who knew that the poison was real. But it didn't matter, because the mercenary offered to escape. A magic circle appeared around the magicians. But when Giselle thought about the fact that he was a killer, it became clear that they didn't even know him. She realized that this was Wayne the magician, because in the novel, this man knew how to cast magic. Suddenly, they teleported to someplace, and the man asked if the girl knew where they were. The blue-eyed girl said that you could escape so easily with magic. It was very disappointing. To this insolence, the magician asked whether to return the girl back to prison, to which she replied that it was not worth it. In any case, Giselle is a witch who escaped using black magic. If caught, she will be immediately executed in front of everyone. The villains of the novel actually used black magic, and she was freed with the help of this magic. The last magician, Wayne Eyre, owned this magic. In the novel, he gathered all the magicians and went against the main character. The Black Mist is an organization of dark magicians led by Wayne, referred to as the Listening Dark Clouds at the beginning of the novel. Having guessed, the girl asked that the man was one of Wayne's henchmen. The lady began to get nervous because she spoke very disrespectfully to Wayne's subordinate. She asked what the magician's name was, to which he replied that his name was Renji. But the blonde couldn't remember that name in the novel. The girl tried with all her might to remember by her external features whether such a character even existed in the novel. He seemed more handsome in the dungeon, and clearly he must stand out from the crowd. Although all the magicians from the Dark Fog organization were notable characters, Giselle also met one of them then. Perhaps Renji was not mentioned there then. The lady assumed that the man helped her because of his master's orders, to which he replied that the head would not know about it. The magicians suggested not to stand in this place, since there was a nearby tower in which Giselle was imprisoned. They would soon go looking for the escaped witch. The blonde was scared, because they were really next to the prison tower. The criminal glanced at him and then suggested that they take a walk somewhere. In fact, she understood that if she was left alone, she would be caught instantly, and now more than ever, she needed his help. Then, the man asked what would help him in return. But suddenly, cries rang out that the witch had disappeared, and the search for Giselle finally began. Renji said that it would be better to wait until a decent price was set for the blonde's head, to which she screamed that she would give him information. This was valuable because the girl was offering information that would help him improve. Giselle said that she knows the future of some people from his organization. The lady remembered the plot of the novel, so this future is happening now. For example, the blonde knew who would become their future leader, but the man doubted that he could be bribed with this. But the witch reported that she drank a lot of poison, but was still alive and received magical powers. He had never heard that magic could be obtained from poison, but the girl assured that she had supernatural powers. She tried to explain that she knew more information than anyone else here. In an instant, guards ran around the corner looking for the escaped woman, but the mercenary instantly covered her with his body. She made puppy dog eyes and asked if the rescuer would leave her here. But the man menacingly declared that before her ban, he used forbidden magic. He sacrificed a man who worked with him. Black magic has its own rules, and they are different for everyone. And Renji is the man who died because of Giselle's deception and came for her. He came to test his strength on a girl. He needed to find out if she was interested in the poison that she had recently drunk. The man came closer, which made the lady feel unwell, and he began to say something about a falling star. He wanted to summon a creature not from this world, but the research was not completed, and he had not yet decided to take a big risk. The magician took the girl by both hands and asked who she was. But if you think about it and draw a conclusion from his words, the girl was called into this world thanks to Giselle and Renji. They need to carefully choose who is best to call into this world, and they chose her, tired, tortured, having nothing to do with it. Red Eyes asked if she really was equipped with such information, and how many important people would remain in the future, but she could only say for sure that in the future, she herself would remain. The mercenary assumed that the girl wanted to make a deal with him. He assumed the blonde wanted to hear it from him. He also suggested that he could somehow get this information from Giselle. The man asked if the blue-eyed one knew the dungeon that the magicians had built. Giselle suggested that if he were a professional magician, he would have read all her thoughts long ago. The girl said that she just wanted to save her life and asked to end on a peaceful note. The mercenary said that this girl was definitely not Giselle, because the real one would not be such a slob. The brown-haired man said that the witch must answer how she can be useful, otherwise he will simply hand her over for money. She said that all she could do was determine the taste of poison. The man mockingly asked what was useful in this. Then, the lady hinted that if the head was poisoned, then she could become his taster of various poisons. Let's start with the main thing. Renji decided not to abandon the girl, not to kill her, and not to sell her to the soldiers. And Giselle became an employee of some magic store. On one of the shelves, the lady noticed some kind of doll that was clearly cursed. It was a store that sold not magical, but cursed things. The blonde asked why she needed this place. She suggested that if the poison did not affect her, then he decided to curse her, to which he explained that only things were cursed there, and the place itself was absolutely clean. And to be honest, the magician does not trust the witch, so she first needs to prove her loyalty. Her job here is to distinguish between different types of poisons, as well as serve clients. The girl's task is to drink and taste poisons. For the lady, the magician was a terrible person, because why would she even need a career that starts from the very bottom? 10 days have passed since she became a seller. At first, Renji watched the girl, but after 3 days, she no longer saw him. But suddenly, he asked if Giselle gave the cursed doll a name. A guy named Ten said that the saleswoman was really strange. He was a deliverer of goods in a store, and also worked part-time in various places. From a warlock, he wants to become a full-fledged magician. The blonde said that she was not crazy at all, to which she was told that crazy people themselves do not know that they are crazy. For him, Giselle was an incredible girl, because she became a saleswoman in a cursed place. Renji's store doesn't seem to have a bad reputation. Ten said that he would leave his things here, to which the lady said that this is a store, but things are only brought here. There were a lot of visitors, but no one bought anything. Sometimes they seem to want to buy something, but refuse. In fact, they simply give away poison, which, by the way, just smelled terrible. The girl immediately determined what the poison was made of, what it tasted and smelled like. People were very surprised, because for them, this liquid had no odor. Then, Giselle realized that only she could distinguish the smells and taste of poison. Renji also said something similar, that no one smells poison except her. Ten continued to say that there was nothing left to surprise the crazy blonde, to which she didn't even want to answer him. It was strange that the witch again did not see the magician, because there had been no news from him for 3 whole days. She suddenly realized that this was her ideal chance to escape. She understood that if she stayed here, she would become a lab rat, and if the lady was now alive, and she had a chance to survive. Giselle decided to take some poison with her as salary for 10 whole days worked. And now, the time has come when the witch planned to start her escape. Going outside, the lady hoped that no magic of confinement was cast here, and she could escape without anyone noticing. One way or another, she succeeded. The blonde thought that one of the buyers was talking about some kind of carriage, but suddenly, the witch saw a group of guards in front of her and was taken aback. She was shocked that there were too many of them. The main problem was that photographs of Giselle were hung everywhere, from which one could easily recognize her. She was surprised that her store was located next to the soldier's post. But suddenly, Renji appears behind the girl, quietly whispering in her ear why she is standing here. The guy said that if you go a little further, the soldiers will be happy to accept her. The lady made a stupid face, saying that they had not seen the gentleman for a long time, but he reminded her that only 3 days had passed. The beauty said that she would immediately explain the misunderstanding, saying that she was not going to run away. Then, the red-eyed man asked if the lady had decided to give up or check her death by hanging, to which she replied that this was not so, because she just wanted to take a walk. She stated that she was used to taking 10,000 steps a day, and her body was becoming healthier. Then, the demon began to drown her because the girl took poison with her, apparently to quench her thirst. The girl assumed that the magician found out about this with the help of his abilities. The blonde said that if she drinks a little poison, the desire to work only increases significantly. But he did not yield, asking whether it was necessary to take money for the walk. But even here, Giselle got out of it well, saying that on the way back, She wanted to buy the magician a gift. Renji was indignant that now the lady calls him master, but in prison, she called him a terrible person. In an instant, the blonde noticed that the guards were walking in their direction, which made her very wary. She took a piece of fabric from the master's cloak and covered her face, saying that she was trying to hide in front of the soldiers. In an instant, the girl pulled him to her, asking him to pretend that the man was kissing her in order to completely cover her identity. She explained this request by saying that if they ran, it would be suspicious, and if they pretended to be lovers, it would distract the soldiers. But the man grinned that in such a situation, lovers kissing in an alley. But the blonde was very confused when the man sharply pressed her against the wall. He leaned in front of her, smiling maliciously, making the lady embarrassed. He asked what happened to her face, because she herself suggested pretending to be lovers. The lady began to mumble something when she suddenly noticed that one of the guards looked at her. She was very frightened and began to think that the soldier had noticed her and recognized her. Giselle began to get angry because since the magician had pressed her against the wall, she needed to hug her harder and at least bend over for a fake kiss. But in a moment, the blonde was able to relax because the guard walked past, apparently not recognizing her. The girl couldn't understand why they weren't tied up, to which the guy replied that people couldn't see them. He began to walk somewhere to the side, to which the lady was even more worried that they would be seen. He walked to a certain place, saying that for the guards, that alley looks like an ordinary wall, because an illusion spell was cast on this place. In the novel, it was said that where magic was used, a magic circle remains, and black magic leaves dark traces. This is how the main characters track down Wayne. And at the climax, they defeat him. The blue-eyed woman wondered if her memory was failing her. She asked if it was magic, then why the soldiers didn't notice anything. To this, the black magician said that it happened by itself, because he is much stronger. The man said that Giselle looked so funny that he did not consider it necessary to say so right away. Then the girl concluded that he was truly terrible. In this case, the magician suggested going to the store and continuing there. But the lady really forgot that she wanted to escape, and in the end she was caught. She got embarrassed and angry because she didn't understand that this guy wanted to continue in the store. The girl suddenly cautiously assumed that the gentleman was planning to torture her. He sarcastically declared that if she didn't mind, then he would give her such pleasure, although he could do it even here. The blonde said that a new poison had arrived because she was a loyal employee who would immediately return to work on new products that had arrived. Renji grinned, thinking that this witch was just really cute. She gave the owner a list of all the taste qualities, all the poisons that she checked. The table was very convenient, which is why the man thought that if Vidro found out about such abilities, he would immediately come to their store. The blonde said that the poisons taste just like fruit, but most likely, he just wanted to try Giselle's skills. But the magician didn't want to receive work from her and listen to these incomprehensible words. He was wondering just what the hell had brought Giselle Lobane here. With a little pain, she is already aching, but at the same time, she is not afraid to drink poison, does not want to put herself in danger, but is ready to work with villains. For Renji, the lady was a very strange, contradictory nature, but it was interesting what kind of creature was inside this body. In an instant, Renji asked what Giselle's real name was, but she introduced herself in exactly the same way, to which the guy realized that she wasn't even going to talk about her real self. Suspiciously, blonde hair, clear eyes, she is exactly Giselle Losbane, but because of her personality and manner of speaking, she is a completely different person. And the biggest contradiction is that she demands from people. She doesn't even try to be like a real heroine. The girl did not understand why the man did not believe her, because she gave him an exact report on the poisons. She asked what the guy doubted, because she was a completely harmless person. But he said that he didn't trust anyone, and besides, he saw the blonde trying to escape. In addition, she also stole money, but the lady still tried to justify herself and pass off that story as reliable. Giselle was outraged that the gentleman was not going to pay her for her work. She started shouting that she worked hard, so he should pay her for her work, especially when a person risks his life by drinking poison. The man thought that the lady was very funny, although the real Giselle would never do such a thing. Mages buy chickens to test curses on them, and later turn their room into a chicken coop because they are too cute to kill. And now, Renji partially understood them. The magician began to use his magic, creating a dark sphere. Seeing that it was possible that Giselle was in danger, she immediately began to apologize, saying that she forgot that she was on probation, and she would agree to unpaid work because the master gave her shelter. But he replied that he did not understand anything from what was said, when suddenly, lovely butterflies, with very beautiful wings of incredible size, began to fly out of his hands. The girl really liked this trick and asked if these were real butterflies. To this, he replied that these were his familiars, as well as observers who would look after Giselle. The girl asked if they could talk. The gentleman replied that these creatures spoke only to him, but the girl got upset and said that she also wanted to communicate with them. She began to examine the wings of these babies, also speaking of them as creatures with very beautiful wing colors. The blonde especially looked at and touched red butterflies, to which the man said that this species is poisonous, and the white ones could easily paralyze a person. But it was scary, because Giselle wouldn't die anyway. The magician, once again watching the blonde, became convinced that he considered her very cute. Although a minute ago the lady was restless with excitement, but now she looks very interested. He thought that Giselle also had another ability, namely, she knows the future of important people. It would be interesting whose future the lady knows, and by what criteria she determines important people. But suddenly, the gentleman asked what the lady knew about Wayne. The question was also asked about why Giselle wants to work for his boss. Having released all the butterflies, whom the blonde was ready to squeeze to death, she said that Wayne is the strongest among all the villains. The witch also added that when the man meets the head, he must tell him everything she said, and she would be very grateful if the magician helped her get a job with him. But the fact that the girl called his head a villain, this need not be said. The lady said that she really likes the tail of a dragon than the head of a snake. It would be great to work for such a prestigious person. But the man recalled that the girl said that she could help determine the poison for the chapter. But even so, only Giselle distinguishes tastes, and therefore the question is how she can help deal with poisons. To this, she suggested that she would taste each of his foods before the meal. In other words, a food taster. It sounded strange, but the blonde asked the magician to arrange a meeting with the head of Wayne Air. But to this strange and unusual request, the lady received a negative answer. He asked if the lady would be with him if he gave her food, but she replied that she would only come to try the poison. She will also take breaks to drink tea, eat dessert, and there will always be time for a snack. This meant that they would be together all day. Renji immediately stated that he was against her being with Wayne all day. He explained that the lady would also look after the store, and the salary would be commensurate with the job. But the girl will receive a salary when she becomes a permanent employee. Red-Eye already wanted to leave, but Giselle tried to stop him. She approached him, and the man noticed that the girl's mood had changed. It seemed like she was up to something because she was acting crazy and wanted to get close to Wayne so she could kill him. In this case, the blonde said that since ancient times, employment contracts were concluded between an employee and his boss, and after that, a law on discrimination against women was passed. The girl wanted to say that the probationary period and salary require a clear deadline. Hearing these words, the magician began to choke with laughter, saying that Giselle was the best thing he had ever met in his life. He concluded that this is why he needs to keep her close and watch her. As soon as Renji put up his pets, Giselle began to see him less often. Thanks to him, she had more free time and sometimes had the opportunity to walk along some alleys. Of course, this is surveillance from the butterflies, but the blonde was not particularly against it. Because these creatures are very beautiful, it was even convenient, because when walking with them, the girl makes it clear to the man that she will not run away. And again, Ten arrived at her shop again, calling the lady Crazy Giselle. She began to talk about how now the girl is not a temporary worker, but an employee on a probationary period, so she can be called a trainee. He could say whatever he wanted, but the girl already has an official contract. After all, everything is now clearly defined. And now, Renji will definitely not hand it over to the authorities or use it as material for research. This employment contract is proof that the witch will survive and has complete immunity. Ten wanted to buy that damn doll, to which the girl replied that it was better for him to take it himself. The guy still seemed completely green, because he thought that if he touched the doll, he would immediately be cursed. The blonde explained that only items are sold here, but the place itself is not cursed. The lady was even sad that her Isabel left, because without this doll, she became very lonely. But suddenly, she remembered that she still had butterflies. No matter how much you look at them, these creatures are very beautiful. Then there was dark dust on the boss's fingertips, It was the same thing in prison. But they look like they have glitter. Since Renji's appearance is so bright, then his strength should be bright. The next thoughts were interrupted by a new visitor who needed to say good morning. But the stranger immediately began to scream, asking if she was the witch the gentleman had picked up. He began to talk about how she forced the magician to take her away and put her in this store, to which the girl did not understand at all what was happening. Red was already hysterical, shouting that this was impossible, because this place was originally his. The guy asked where the gentleman was now, because he needed to see him, but the lady replied that the head does what he wants, and lately he has been very busy, so he should leave his contacts, and when he arrives, he will contact former employee. But the boy said that no one would believe the suicide bomber, that the former prisoner was not satisfied, because she was not going to die yet. In an instant, Ten burst into the store again, asking if everything was okay, because he heard a noise and thought that something had happened. Seeing him, the red-haired man immediately ran away, declaring that he would return. The worker often sat in one alley where a spell was cast, and it was from there that she could keep an eye on people. But Giselle couldn't walk around the city because of her wanted photos, but she also didn't want to hang around the store all day. The lady wondered for a second if it was okay to stay in the store and work there. If you think that Giselle was a minor character in the novel, if she stayed in the store, she definitely wouldn't meet the main characters from the novel. Renji wouldn't introduce her to Wayne, so it's unlikely that the lady will become a member of a dark organization. It was scary whether it was safe for her to stay here, because if that guy came again, Giselle would ask the magician to find the same doll so that it would drive away all the unclean. But in an instant, the butterflies began to insistently crawl towards the lady, as if they were trying to say something. The girl had a theory in her head that the pets were currently mating. She felt that the guys did not like these words, to which she realized that it was better for her to leave. It was strange, because no one sees her in this alley. But suddenly, Giselle noticed that one of the soldiers, as if he had seen her, was trying to approach. The blonde, based on his appearance, concluded that he was the commander of all the soldiers. He was a rather handsome man, with blonde hair and very bright green eyes. Suddenly, it dawned on the girl that this soldier looked like Dylan from the Poison Apple. She began to think what he was doing here, when in an instant their eyes met. Grabbing her chair, the witch began to run. She realized that the magic of illusion had no effect on him. Dylan saw right through everything, and no amount of magic will work on him. The blonde ran into the store and locked the door. Everything was strange, because in the original, after Giselle's execution, the guy returns to his homeland. It all turned out that the story did not follow the original plot. But if the blonde catches the witch, he will certainly kill her, and then she will definitely be executed. The lady covered her mouth with her hands and tried to tell the butterflies to call the gentleman. Having said this, Giselle heard a knock on the door. It seemed like someone was trying to open it. The sounds became more frequent, when suddenly, at one moment, she realized that the hero had left. The knight will obviously not return until Giselle is dead. Most likely, he will spend his whole life looking for her in the plot. The blonde tried to drive herself away from these thoughts because she was just a minor villain, so it was unlikely that he would look for her so persistently. But the lady suddenly remembered that the original Giselle threatened the life of the main character. The witch began to think that it was in vain that she ran away and locked herself in the store ahead of time. The girl cautiously looked behind the door, revealing only a small crack. But she only saw again the guy who came yesterday. He asked why all the doors and windows were locked. The lady asked why he came, because she had already said everything last time, and also signed an agreement to work in this store, to which the guy replied that he understood everything and was here to give Mr. Renji something. She said that she didn't know where he was, because she herself wanted to find out, because she hadn't seen him for a long time. The girl thought that he had not forgotten about her because he was sending food. In this case, the stranger offered to take the goods. It is in a cart. It is large enough to drive inside. The cart was so huge that the road was blocked by it, so we urgently need to pick up the goods. But the lady didn't want to leave the store now, so she asked if she could even lift it alone. He already has little time, and he should hurry, because if she continues to resist, he will have to tell the master that she is not doing her job properly. This could have a negative impact on her salary, because Giselle is only on probation. The cart really blocked the road, making it impossible to even get through the alley. The girl asked the guy to climb inside and give her the goods so she could accept it. The guy said that if the lady breaks the product, he will take responsibility. They came to the decision that Giselle would have to get into the cart, even though she didn't want to until the very end. There were a lot of boxes inside, and it was impossible to understand which one was her product. The merchant suggested that the bottom drawer next to her was her product. The witch bent down to take the box, when suddenly a sword was put at her throat, and the blonde ordered her not to move. The competitor said that Dylan would have to pay him because he helped with the capture of the villain. The girl instantly realized that this bastard had simply sold her. The knight ordered a drive to go to the place of execution for Giselle. The blonde asked to lower the sword because there was some kind of misunderstanding. The lady tried to say that you shouldn't threaten people with a sword and intimidate them, to which the man said that Giselle is not a person. She began to say that she had often heard that she looked like some kind of Giselle, but then a mistake occurred. When the attacker remained silent, the blonde asked where they were going. The hero said that the black magic had increased and accused the lady of accepting this magic. The blue-eyed girl began to shout that she was a person with a bright soul, and she did not use black magic at all. She also stated that they were looking for the wrong person. The man asked if this was a side effect of the tinctures or if the lady had been taken over by a real devil. But now it didn't matter, because Dylan decided that at that very moment, Giselle would die. It felt like he had a split personality, because he seemed to be such a kind, sweet main character. But in reality, the man looks more like a mentally ill person. The girl assumed that the blonde was now executing her, but he said that first, he would destroy the devil inside the witch. The lady simply did not understand why he was saying something about demons, because this was obvious nonsense. But suddenly, I remembered that there was something similar in the poisonous apple. Then the magician who entered into a contract with the demon was executed, and he was burned with white magic, the complete opposite of black. The blue-eyed girl began to shout that there is no devil, and Dylan himself is one. But she continued, "After all, ask anyone if there are innocent people who threaten citizens, because it is the devil who threatens to kill an innocent person." She stated that the warrior does not see any essence, because what kind of force is that cannot distinguish between an innocent person and a criminal one? But he only went crazy. He grabbed the girl by the throat and asked how she knew about his abilities. But the lady could not answer with strong hands squeezing her throat, and the blonde began to wonder if she would really die like this. In an instant, inside the cart where the fraudsters were located, those same beautiful butterflies appeared, which with their appearance drives fear. Smelling the pollen, the man threw the girl away from him, covering his nose with his hand. He said that this was a very interesting trick. A couple of deft movements, and the warrior, taking a sharp blade with a sharp blade, cut the pets, tearing their wings into pieces. He began to slowly approach the lady, expecting that he would finally bring justice to this guilty girl, when suddenly a strange sign appeared on the floor, and a violet atmosphere penetrated the room. From the sign in the floor, some bundles of blue smoke began to appear, which clearly appeared as a result of strong black magic. The man tried to fight back with his main weapon, but those, like huge tentacles, began to pull the warrior's body behind them, twisting and holding his arms in every possible way. As a result of all this, the dark forces threw Dylan out of the cart. A magician appeared behind the lady and told her that if she stood on the edge, she might fall. The head tried to lightly press the girl to himself so that she would not fall along with the warrior, but she began to prove that she was not trying to escape. To this he replied that he knew what was happening. The girl sadly explained that she also did not try to kill the butterflies, but Renji also understood and knew everything. And also, the brunette said that the blonde had to tell him something. The blue-eyed girl only, after trying to figure it out on her own, apologized for leaving the store. She also thanked him for saving her once again. Under the gaze of the owner, the girl said that before the arrival of the head, the butterflies saved her. Therefore, she must first thank them. The man stated that they were his servants, but he did not ask them to help the lady. The girl is now in Renji's debt, because it was very difficult to get to her. But she tried to ask, if these butterflies are servants, then if they are cut with a sword, they can survive. Renji said that he attached them to her as observers, and she killed them, which Giselle did not admit. Although, looking at his attitude towards the butterflies, everything is fine with them, and the head immediately appeared in front of her when they were cut, which means he is not receiving some kind of signal from them. Giselle asked if Dylan was dead and had recently tried to kill her. The girl began to worry that if he was sucked into the magic circle, then what would happen to the novel if the main character died? But the magician cleverly noticed that the lady spoke as if she were talking about someone else. The man said that he heard that the girl was worried when Dylan received some kind of injury because she loved him very much. The red-eyed man knew that she was not the real Giselle Luazbayin, but still, he continued to talk nonsense, and it was clear from his face that he was mocking her. It was interesting what happened between Giselle and Dylan. She was unrequitedly in love with him, as if obsessed with love for him. Using her acting skills, she began to scream, feigning pain and resentment at what Dylan had done. But the magician only frowned and looked away, and then turned away and said that he needed to go. The master used that magic again to move the girl to where he needed to go. Renji's magic was incredible as they moved very quickly. She wondered if Renji was that strong. How strong was Wayne? And someone that strong died from a poisonous snake in the novel's plot. The man said that this was not the time to idle, because the store needed to be moved. It was very strange, because the brunette looked serious. The lady thought that the guy was sure that Dylan was alive. Although the main character is unlikely to die, he will probably recover and come back for her. The main character had to fix everything, because even if he was seriously injured, she shouldn't care. The girl asked, while she collected all her things, where to transport it all. The magician said that he would transfer everything at once to another place. He took some red liquid and began to draw on the floor with it. Since the blonde began to worry about whether the bottles would break, Renji asked to remove anything that could break. Remembering, Giselle said that she not only followed there, but one person literally sold and betrayed her. But the man knew about this too, because his butterflies conveyed absolutely everything to him. At that moment, the girl realized that the head was simply calmly watching as this crazy man strangled her. In a moment, smiling maliciously, the man suggested that the lady was wondering what had become of the blonde. To this, she replied that she did not want to know the details at all. The magician asked the girl to come up to him, but she burst into tears that there was no need to show her anything, but he had no intention of doing so. As she approached, the red-eyed man looked at her neck, noticing that there was a bruise. The blonde said that no one burned her, so the bruise is normal, but he deftly noticed that he wanted to burn her, to which she nervously explained that the man said something about the devil, but she didn't understand anything because she was a human. The girl said that he choked her and called her a demon. And suddenly, the girl realized that Giselle was in love with Dylan and was now shouting at him very stupidly. The gentleman smiled and asked if the lady's heart was broken because he was wounded. Without waiting for an answer, the owner asked not to call Dylan dear because it was most likely unpleasant for him. In the novel by Wayne Eyre, a mysterious person is the second main character. The magician will definitely not like the fact that the villainess has tender feelings for his sworn enemy. Renji said that even if the leg is broken, he will gather the soldiers and attack them, so they need to move from the store as soon as possible, and after moving, the girl will be able to rest. The magician asked to pack his things while he created a magic circle, but the blonde noticed that he was worried about her. He finally finished with the magic and asked the lady to come closer so he could take them to a new place. He smiled and hugged the girl while doing magic. Finally, they moved to a new place, which was much more spacious than the place before. The blonde noticed that Renji wasn't feeling well, holding his chest and breathing unevenly. She asked how the man was feeling, but he only hit the door with his fist, saying that the ladies' room was behind it. The magician ordered rest, but Giselle understood that it was clearly not her who needed rest. The red-eyed man said that the store would be closed for now, and the girl should go and sleep. But the blue-eyed one tried to stop the head, because it seemed to her that he had spent a lot of energy moving, and now it was very difficult for him. She began to wonder if Renji was even resting. Having decided that the lady would lie down for a while, she plopped down on the bed and closed her eyes. This time the girl almost got into trouble. She thought that she would die like that. For the first time, she was so scared. The girl concluded that she would not fall for this again, and in the future, she will not allow this to happen. From now on, the lady will always be next to Renji. Mr. Wayne has finally arrived. He was informed that if he continued in the same spirit, the soldiers would not notice anything. But suddenly, a man approached the gentleman and turned to him. He began to whisper something in the magician's ear. Wayne asked to make sure that they could handle everything and that everything would be ready for the move. They arrived to Renji, who asked if they had found what they needed. As it turned out, Dylan did not die, to which he stated that the man was too impenetrable. As he had expected, his complexion had changed greatly. Usually, such a large object is not used to move, or other magicians are called in for help. But Dylan appeared at the store too suddenly. The man said that he should have come to the estate right away and asked why Renji stayed there, to which he replied that no matter how you looked at it, he was definitely a spy. The magician ordered that today the entire staff be released from the city, and those who interfere will be removed. The gentleman said that Wayne should head towards the castle, now lead several rallies to divert the attention of these white magicians. He just bowed and began to do what he was told. But the servant asked why the man needed the woman he brought home. To this, he replied that she was his employee, due to the fact that Giselle is wanted everywhere. If you look at it like that, she can become a nuisance. But the brunette just smiled and said that she was on probation and she was his personal employee. He mysteriously closed his eyes, and his favorite butterflies reappeared near him. The magician asked them if Giselle was sleeping, to which he received a positive answer. The gentleman sighed, and getting up from the sofa, whispered that the blonde was a real fool. He went down one floor, opening a magic circle on the door to the room. He was irritated by the fact that he had to balance the magical power, although he had to use the gate to move. Finding himself back in the store, Renji decided that he needed to call someone to sort things out. The man walked into Giselle's room, watching her sleep. The owner ordered his pets to stay in the room until she woke up, but the butterflies wondered if they should let Giselle die, due to the guy's previous order. He had avoided conflict with Dylan until now, but when he grabbed the girl, something went wrong. The magician tucked the lady's hair behind her ear, deciding that they would wait and see. But while she's here, it's worth keeping an eye on her. The main character sat and tried to treat the blonde with the help of light magic. The redhead covered her forehead and announced that she was already finished. He thanked Viviana, to which she said that she just had to help. Dylan said that the witch teamed up with a dark magician. The man asked the lady to stay where she was, but she shouted that she would go with him. Angry, the blonde had already started shouting, asking if the main character had forgotten how many times she almost died at the hands of a witch. The girl said that she had heard rumors that Giselle Luzben had changed, but he replied that the point is not whether she has changed or not, because the situation is completely different. The redhead said that they should be given a chance to receive forgiveness from God. Then she can cleanse herself and become a better person. But the green-eyed man could not be convinced. He said that if there is only one way to cleanse a person's soul from black magic, there is no other way than to completely destroy him with the flame of purification. He also stated that if the girl treats the villain so lightly, she may suffer. He also added that Giselle had long ago lost faith in God, so you shouldn't use your powers for such a woman. But the main character did not stop, saying that she was very sorry for her. The blonde said she wasn't worth pity, but he would take care of this mean girl. Then she agreed, but asked to be careful. The girl looked away and then stopped the man with one question: whether he knew something about Renji. She was very interested in where he was and what he was doing. The warrior eventually agreed with the girl, because it was really better for him to return. Once again, the girl was working in a store, when she suddenly noticed that the villains from the novel were standing in front of her. The boy introduced himself as Sulyan. He was a doctor and was also researching a medicine, but the blonde knew that he was a mad scientist who was testing various drugs on people. When he was little, he took the wrong medicine and stopped growing, so he looks like a child. In fact, he is already an old man. In the novel, he conducts experiments on Vivian, and it seems that Dylan caught him and cut off his head. The person behind him seems to be Gilberton. All she knows about him is that he is a swordsman whose black magic skills are average, but his swordsmanship is top-notch, and he is sort of like Wayne's soldier. And this woman Vindria, Wayne's right hand, is not inferior to Bedro. In the novel, she is the only necromancer and healer of the organization. Giselle thought they were very cool. Looking at them, she realized that this world is really the world of a novel, and perhaps because they support the villain, it looks like some kind of fan meeting. The scientist, noticing that the lady seemed to be frozen, said that apparently Giselle was really crazy. The witch suddenly announced that the store was now closed, and it was generally strange that they somehow got here. They began to wonder if Renji really hired her. In an instant, Bedro appeared in the room, who was the owner of this building, as well as Wayne's assistant. The man somehow already knew that Giselle was on probation. The blonde was very tired of hearing that everyone considered her crazy, which is why she got angry at the magician and said that she was taking back all her words of gratitude for saving her. The woman said that when she heard about this, She thought it was just a rumor, but now she was finally convinced that they were whispering that the girl was taking drugs. The elder already thought that the madwoman had taken the wrong medications and therefore had gone crazy, not wanting to listen to the fact that this was not so. The girl sighed heavily and asked to call her when they needed something, but the villains continued to utter this humiliating nickname, and the lady simply had to endure it. But the guy still took pity and decided that this was too long a name. The man said that it was he who called these people, because they need to sort things out. She guessed that in this world, everyone cares about each other. The girl addressed Pedro as the owner, to which he asked to call him by name. Nodding appreciatively, the witch asked Mr. Pedro to contact the head, but he said that the guy had some unsettled business, so the members of the organization should stay in the store. In their opinion, Crazy Giselle is timid and simple-minded, which is why she cannot touch cursed objects, which is why she needed an assistant. It seems that Renji actually left Pedro to look after them. The girl wondered in a serious tone whether all these villains were real villains. And besides, they all turned out not to be what she had imagined. The blonde found out that they all came to her store. The doctor said that the medical clinic for villains, which he runs, is located near her store. The laboratory that Windria uses is located above this store, with Gilberton's house next to it. The girl laughed, calling this building a real den of villains. Noticing the bruise on the lady's neck, the doctor said that he had no medicine to get rid of them, and he was very sorry. The woman replied that perhaps it was a curse. She was not strong in healing, so she was unlikely to be able to say for sure. But it was impossible to be completely healed from black magic. And the only thing that white magic cannot cope with is a curse. The blue-eyed girl said that this bruise would most likely go away on its own, but instantly learned that it was a matter of white magic. The guy said that dirty white magic is poison for people like them. The old woman also confirmed his words, adding that this is precisely why white magic is the opposite of black magic. The witch thought that this power might not affect her if it was poison, although magic and poison are different things. Gilberton said that white magic is used by Dilor's soldiers. It is a formless force similar to magical power. The only difference is that magic is an innate power, and the mana that soldiers use is acquired. Although, if you remember, the novel said that Viviana helped Dylan in training, all because white magic and mana are identical. Giselle thought about it. Even if the warrior's power has the properties of magic, they don't know how it affects black magicians. Despite the fact that the saleswoman is not a magician, she still entered into a contract with a magician and tried to use his magic, because her body is desecrated by black magic. The girl decided that she needed to put her thoughts in order, and she offered to bring more food. Looking at herself in the mirror, the blue-eyed girl realized that she had unknowingly used black magic, and this bruise was not just like that. The old man approached the girl, not understanding how it was possible to strangle such a sweet person, because among those who possess white magic, there are no humane people. But even if he was on the lady's side, he still continued to call her Crazy Giselle. The redhead said that not a single magician managed to survive the meeting with Dylan, and they were simply very lucky. The boy began to scare everyone with his madness, saying that he really wanted to take the warrior's blood for research. The girl could only watch as the villains discussed the fact that Dylan's blood was a very interesting specimen for them, but no one wanted to become a corpse. Suddenly, a brunette appeared behind the lady, asking her to take what was in his hands. He gave her a weapon against Dylan's white magic. But the girl immediately saw that it was a damn product from her store. But the medic also confirmed that the warrior is very dangerous, and they need means of defense, because he is known for ending the fight with one blow. Giselle thought that in the novel, Dylan was a fair hero who went towards his goal no matter what. But here there is something wrong with him. The blonde realized that at that moment, when she was being strangled by pale hands, she made a mistake. Dylan's true nature is a top-secret power that is only revealed in the second half of the novel. But now, the girl knows that the warrior will try to find and kill her as soon as possible. The woman patted the blonde on the shoulder and asked her not to worry too much, because even if the main character appeared, they would not sit idly by. The villains promised that they would protect the witch in any case, because she was a member of their organization. The girl replied that she was not such a weak villain and would be able to protect herself. But Vindria frowned, saying that if someone adult wanted to help her, then she should just say thank you. The girl really scared the organization when she started crying, because they understood that her heart could hurt badly. But when asked about pain, Giselle hastened to refute these speculations, saying that it was the first time that someone told her that they would protect her. Before she came into this world, she had to do everything on her own. Everyone started trying to calm down the weak villainess, because apparently she was very scared by Dylan. Gilberton promised that he would show the lady a special place where she could hide. For the girl, this was surprising, because now it doesn't seem to her that damned things are so scary. The same thing happened with Dylan and getting into another world. But everything was so confused that the blonde understood little. But having decided that she is the only employee of this store, so she needs to open, the girl screamed that she would earn a lot of money when suddenly Renji appeared from behind, who said that in order to earn it, he must pay her. The lady was very angry because the head was silently creeping up from behind, but the man said that everyone noticed him immediately, and she was too stupid not to notice. The guy realized that the lady was too noisy, but she managed to get along with the others, which amused him. The girl said that she sorted out her things and had a good rest. It was awkward to ask such questions, but having ventured, the blonde asked how the gentleman was feeling. He replied that it didn't matter, and also asked if the blue-eyed girl was crying. He continued to embarrass the emotional worker by saying that when the organization announced her protection, she was very moved. He also added that when he saved her, the girl somehow thanked him, but if he said that he would also protect her, then the girl would burst into tears. Having calmed down, the blonde whispered that she was very grateful to the master. The brown-haired man smiled, and with a serious look, despite the smile, tied a scarf around her neck, telling him that this is temporary, and next time he will bring something else. The red-eyed man turned away and asked to get ready, also adding that it was not necessary to open the store yet. This was not necessary because the magician would give the lady a tour of the city. Going out into the street, the girl realized that she had never even known that it was very busy near the store. The man waved his hand and pointed at the people, saying that this was the busiest place in the city, pointing to the stalls that were famous for their fresh fruit. The store was located next to the largest store in Banhel. Sometimes there are sellers in front of the store with various treats, and if a lady wants to buy something, Renji allows her to go out and buy it. For Giselle, it was very interesting, because there are a lot of different goodies here. Suddenly, the lady asked if they should walk around the city like that if they were villains, to which the villain stated that everything would be fine, because they were far enough from the capital. Banhel, who was in the novel, only villains can enter this area, living here. You need to keep in mind that there are many criminals, and anyone caught committing a crime will be expelled, so people don't pay much attention to others. The girl exhaled when she realized that it was safe to walk here. The blonde said that she knows that Banhel is also the headquarters of Mr. Wayne. The man asked how much the witch knew about Wayne Eyre. She replied that she knew as much as she knew about the organization. She also knew a little about the future, but did not know his personality. In the novel, it was a man with silver hair. But suddenly, the lady's stomach began to growl, from which the gentleman realized that it was time for them to have lunch. The magician hoped the lady had a small appetite, but the witch was only glad that now she wouldn't have to hide in the alleys. The blonde said that from now on, Banhel is her second favorite city. Then he asked which one came first, but the lady understood that he simply would not understand her, because in this world, these cities do not exist. In an instant, something very large and fast ran right in front of Giselle, and thank God that Renji managed to pull her close to him to protect her. As it turned out, it was the cart that almost hit the lady. Red Eyes said that if she was hit by a carriage, the blame would be on her. It was the rules of their city, which meant that if a crime was committed quietly, no one would know about anything. Giselle shouldn't have said that this place is her second favorite. The girl realized that it would be better to sit in the store. Therefore, when going out somewhere, it's worth taking Gilberton with you. But the girl seriously thought that this guy was the right hand of the head. To this, the man only laughed, saying that Gilberton is a fellow subordinate who carries out the orders of the head, and if she asks to protect her, he will do it. In this case, the witch asked, which means the head ordered the brunette to protect her. She was very happy that Wayne already knew about her, and also asked if he could visit the store so that they could meet. The blonde noticed that Renji was starting to get nervous. Apparently, he didn't want her to see the head. The blue-eyed girl said that she wanted to see him because he was an incredibly handsome man. He was very confused, while the lady thought that if she could work hand in hand with Wayne, then Renji would not be offended if she left him. He smiled sarcastically when the girl said that Wayne's silver hair was very beautiful. The man even remembered that Giselle liked silver hair. As she began to retreat, the magician asked her what about the black hair. The blonde began to guess that Renji was jealous of the gentleman's beauty, to which he replied that the girl was very frivolous because she praised someone she had not even seen. Then, the girl asserted that the magician considered his head not beautiful, and, snorting, walked forward. Red Eyes remembered that Giselle said that she knew the future of some important people. He stopped and stated that he had a question about the future of those people, which the lady knew about. He asked if Dylan Stash was among the important people. To this, the witch gave a positive answer. Renji began to ask more and more questions about what the future of the main character would be, and whether he would be poisoned. Giselle replied that Dylan would be killed, but the magician did not back down in the fight for details. To the last question, who will kill Stash, the one who ended up in this world answered that he would be executed by Wayne Eyre. The gentleman grinned, realizing what a pitiful future he had. Giselle simply could not believe that he was happy to hear about the death of the main character. Most likely, the magician hates him so much because they have been enemies for a long time. Or perhaps there is some other reason that is unknown to the lady. The store owner said that he had business to do, so he would go to solve it. He also added that the girl had a day off today, handing her some kind of sphere from his hand. Butterflies, which seemed to have died long ago, reappeared from the hand. The red one was called Ren, and the white one was called Ban. The magician said that without knowing the pet's name, she would not be able to communicate with them. The blonde shouted that she always communicated with them, asking them to say something. Ren said they tried to warn her, but she said they were mating. At this, the man burst into laughter. The girl thought that Wayne had appointed Gilberton to guard her. She did not think that the master would find out about her so soon. She would like to see this man, and he needs to make an appointment in person. But the butterflies suggested that the lady likes strong and handsome men, which is why she needs to be strong and handsome. She asked to stop and forgive her for what happened then. But the pets called the blonde arrogant, who constantly eats cookies, but should at least once exercise. They continued to pester her, saying that this way the girl would not find a good partner, which really irritated her. But suddenly, the witch asked how the butterflies communicate with Renji, guessing that with the help of telepathy. Red replied that they could only talk to him if he gave them permission. The girl thought that if something happened, she could talk to Renji through butterflies. But this is not so. But if she is attacked, the magician will be the first to know about it. That is, they can still contact the gentleman. Dylan knows her, so they need to be prepared for anything. The blonde asked not to talk to her because she had to work. Giselle, the last villainess in the novel of the first part, appears in the second part of The Magician Wayne Eyre. Viviana also appears in that part, and there they will all meet each other. Wayne gathers all the dark magicians and will try to expose the entire country to the influence of black magic. At the same time, he wanted to show everyone his strength. The lady thought that she was trying to sacrifice the entire city. Poison Apple is a novel where the main focus is on the emotions of the characters, and she is not sure what exactly the magicians did. Viviana was then cursed and dying, a curse for which Giselle risked her life. The question immediately arose why Giselle called her, because she does not hate Viviana. She was trying to figure out whether the main character was now cursed, although the healthy heroine was stronger than in the original story. Then the dark side will be defeated, and the girl will also be killed. It was scary not knowing where to go. The girl was thinking out loud when Vindria suddenly appeared and asked what curse we were talking about. The woman stated that she could help the lady with the curse. To this, the girl replied that it is not so important now. The redhead asked if Giselle was studying, since she could teach her some moves, but she had never had students. Suddenly, a guy burst into the room, calling Vindria after him. It was strange to see Ten here again, although back then, he often came to the store. He said that he couldn't believe that his wife was here. He was the redhead's delivery boy and only student. Vindria never had any intention of taking on students. They began to argue, to which the girl asked to talk about this in another place. Silence had just finally overtaken her when new customers suddenly appeared, deciding that she would sort out the plot a little later, but now she needed to work in the store. Renji thought that the saleswoman would have a good rest on her day off. In the old store, she often wandered around the alleys, but now she began to work hard. He thought that this store had more weekends than that one, which is why she was tired of those weekends. In an instant, his gaze fell on the boy, who shouted that all magicians were dirty and would not last long. The spy was immediately hit on the cheek for everything he had done. The man swore that he would tear out his tongue or cut off his head. To this, Wayne only agreed. But suddenly, Renji got into their dialogue, asking if he could take that guy for himself. The old man immediately agreed, saying that the man could take that poor fellow. A scream was heard in the alley, which indicated that he would not say anything to anyone again. But he put a homemade gag in his mouth, telling him that he didn't need to say anything. He just needed to not die temporarily. He decided that he would put up a barrier. With a snap of his fingers, the red-eyed man teleported a chair and sat down on it. The brown-haired man asked how much magic he needed to use to have silver hair. Wayne was surprised that the gentleman was asking this of him. The magician said that he was a little taken aback by such a question, and asked if Renji really wanted to change his hair color. It was strange for Wayne, because the man had never liked silver hair, but now he was asking it seriously. Instantly, the magician declared, repeating the girl's words, that the man's hair was beautiful and shiny. But the servant only bowed down and asked if his hair was really that shiny. When Renji realized that he had answered his own question, he asked everyone to get out of his sight. Finally, the elder said that if he used his magic haphazardly, he could end up in trouble. In any case, he was very surprised when he moved the store. Although Banhel is safe, it was very risky. Brown said that all this was due to the store employees. Moreover, Dylan sealed Giselle's neck with his mana. To prevent him from tracking her, it is best to hide here. Although it can be gotten rid of over time, simple force cannot erase it. They have no choice but to wait for it to disappear. The gentleman asked Wayne to come into the store because he had a very ardent fan. It was about that trainee employee. The man said that he would soon promote her to a full-time employee because she had already worked so hard there. The gray-haired man wondered if she really was Giselle. After all, it seems that the rumors that she is crazy are true. No matter how you look at it, the blonde is very different from the real heroine of the novel. But no one there knows that it is not her. In this world, only Renji knows the real Giselle Luazben. Remembering the traitor, the man said that he needed to end his life quickly. He whispered that he would check the spy's head and release him later. The assistant suddenly asked cautiously if Renji really wanted to free that guy with a gag in his mouth. The decoy would be a great move for Dylan, as they would now be chasing him. In the end, the man will break his mind and let him go like a dummy. I wondered if the white guy knew this. Does that noble Viviana miss him? At this time, Giselle was very bored at her workplace, because there was not a single client again. Suddenly, as if from nowhere, red dust began to fall. The girl started screaming for Ten to leave because it was a poisonous powder. Ren told her not to make any noise because he was trying to sleep. The girl tried to ask them to fly somewhere else, because they would kill the guy. The delivery man continued to cry about how Vindria abandoned him, despite the fact that he might now die. The blonde decided that she would stop them herself. She had already gotten up from the counter when she suddenly saw Renji, who appeared there. He asked what the lady was trying to do. Renji wanted to say something by moving the store to such a spacious place. The man said that he brought Giselle's lover here. The magician talked about Tina, who didn't even want to know his name, because he wouldn't remember it anyway. But the lady said that she did not need to look for a lover, because she had someone to care about. Hearing the flattering words, Renji patted the girl on the head and calmed down. Next, he looked at Ten and asked why he was here. The lady replied that this was her guest, albeit at such a late time. She stated that she would soon become an official employee here, and saw some shortcomings here, namely that customers do not pay attention to the store's opening hours. For example, the case of Ten and Windria. In order to escape from the guy, she comes to the store every day at dawn. And if everything goes like this, the girl did not understand why her work was here, but the man replied that Vindria had never been like that. Ten clings to Vindria, asking her not to leave him, and Vindria does not want to accept him as a student, and this situation was problematic to tell the master. Suddenly, the door opened, and a woman entered the threshold, to which the man replied that they needed to talk. Renji said that while the store is closed, they should be outside. Moreover, they included their personal circumstances, and how his employee said that he was extremely dissatisfied with this. In response to all the questions, the redhead only asked to forget it. The girl didn't think that everything would turn out this way, but now the guy's life is saved, thanks to Windria. The gentleman noticed that the blonde became sad after the guests left, to which she replied that she was simply worried about the life of an innocent person. In a moment, the worker asked what the guy was doing here at such a late time. Red Eyes said that he did not want to come in, but he saw the lady so tired and came to find out what had happened. But Giselle immediately realized that this was morning surveillance and asked the brown-haired man to deliver the new product that she received. In any case, now that the gentleman is convinced of everything, he can go because the girl is on a break. Renji asked where he should go if this was his store, to which he received the answer that he could go home. The blue-eyed girl sighed and said that she was an employee who ensures the cleanliness and order here. This meant that there was only one room in the store. She suggested that she would have to sleep on the floor. He replied that she still had a room. Giselle said that there was only one bed in the room. Now that she remembered it, he mentioned 10 as her lover, and if she thought about it like that, they would sleep in the same bed with him. The girl screamed in embarrassment that she didn't want to do that, taking a couple of steps back. But the gentleman said that the girl was really crazy. The lady could not believe that he went to sleep in her room after closing the store. Realizing that this was true, the blonde said that Renji really is an evil person. The brown-haired man said that it seemed that the girl was very exhausted, so he would give her a vacation starting tomorrow. She was immediately delighted, saying that she would bear all the expenses, and he could sleep as much as he wanted. But she would lie down on the floor. Literally, with a snap of his fingers, the man bought a bed right in that room, saying that her room would be noisy, but she could sleep here, on this bed. He explained this by saying that it would be uncomfortable for her to sleep on the floor. The girl jumped with happiness, realizing that she was waiting for a vacation and carefree. The lady decided to go to Sulyan and tell him everything. Suddenly, the blonde noticed that Renji had been in the store all this time and heard all her rejoicing. She approached him and asked him to give her money and just leave. All this took into account the fact that the owner himself insisted on this yesterday. But he asked the lady to get ready to go out to have breakfast. The girl was surprised that her boss would have breakfast with her. But the red-eyed man did not see a problem in this. Brown said that Giselle is on vacation and can do whatever she wants. The blonde wanted to take a walk alone, asking if the magician knew what a vacation was. The man replied that vacation was a game, but the lady objected that it was a break from work. Giselle didn't understand why she should be with him on her vacation, because it's not a vacation, because she still sees him all the time. But Renji reminded that the witch is still wanted. Even though they are in Banhel, she must be afraid of a hidden attack. No matter where you look, there are criminals everywhere. The magician said that not everywhere is safe here. He said that usually, in order not to arouse suspicion, they go to regular stores, but you shouldn't go out anywhere alone. The girl said that Gilberton would go with her, but the guy is busy with something, which is why Renji is still here next to the girl. The magician suddenly asked if the bruises had disappeared. The man leaned over and put his hand on the lady's neck, offering to solve this problem. The gentleman said that there is one way to cure this bruise. Come to think of it, this bruise is still as bright because Dylan still used his mana. There's nothing you can do about it, and you'll have to spend your vacation with your boss. The brown-haired man asked why the girl did not change clothes, and it turned out that she had no other clothes. She spent the money that Giselle was given on food because she wanted to diversify her diet. It was surprising, but the prices in Banhal were higher than she thought. In this case, the man offered to buy the girl clothes first. She ate a lot and was happy, looking at the guy with suspicion, not understanding how much she was eating. The only important thing was that the witch was finally left full, and now they could go buy clothes. The magician suggested that such a breakfast was unlikely to change her clothing size. The clothing store worker greeted the guys with a smile. The woman suddenly began calling Giselle mistress, saying that she was glad to see her, and could not believe that the girl came into their store because she wanted to see the witch so badly. It was obvious to her, since she was the first villain to go to the Salcha Tower and return alive. This tower was famous for the fact that no one returned alive from there. She asked how many people the witch killed there, but she didn't kill anyone because all the mercenaries drank the poison themselves and died. The lady began to pester, saying that there were rumors that Giselle had met Dylan himself. A man arrived to defend himself from the ardent fans, saying that they were in a hurry, so the worker should show her clothes. The saleswoman asked what the magician was doing in the women's store, and the blonde felt the atmosphere as if Renji wanted to quarrel with her. The butterflies began to claim that it was better not to approach the gentleman because he was a very powerful magician, and if she didn't believe, she could ask him herself. The girl approached the magician and said that she would always be devoted to him. And finally, the red-haired beast arrived to the couple, saying that she had found the outfits that would suit Mrs. Giselle perfectly. The first outfit was famous for the fact that the fabric was so black that it was almost invisible at night. It was also very elastic and durable, which would not dare to get caught anywhere and tear. But Renji saw such fabric for the first time and began to ask if there was something for men. But the lady only snorted, reminding them that they were in a women's clothing store, and Giselle hoped that there would be no blood. The girl collected shopping bags containing excellent running outfits. But it was quite strange, because the girl does not think that she will run somewhere in them. But the man replied that they would, and hoped that they wouldn't have to. The blonde realized that if Renji was saying something like that, then Dylan was really serious. The magician instantly asked why Giselle was carrying purchases in her hands, and immediately moved them with the help of magic. Magic was indeed a convenient thing. Suddenly, the girl wondered if she should study the magic of self-defense. Red Eyes immediately said that not everyone may have magic. She knew that one was born with magic, but there was another way, a potion that could increase magical power or recreate magic in those who did not have it. The gentleman said that it is very dangerous to artificially create magic within oneself, but she just nodded and asked how to increase her magical power then. There is an attribute called an increase in magical power. It is determined from the very birth of a person. This concerns the size of the vessel. It has always been this way. A strong magician is born strong, and a weak one is born weak. Then, the lady asked what about divine power. The same applies to white magicians. White magic is based on divine power. Even if black magicians use magic, then white magic is no different. The man asked if the blonde knew the difference between magical power and divine power. He stated that this simply does not exist. There is no difference between magical and divine power, but Renji didn't want to talk about it right now, so he suggested they stop. He stopped and asked where they would go next. The blue-eyed girl wondered if the granted divine power was like a blessing from God. If magical power and God's power are the same thing, then the question was, what is the difference between a black magician and a white one? And why the two main characters hate black magicians so much? They finally arrived at a place where the lady could heal her bruises. But suddenly, the man's eyes opened slightly, and he fell into shock, abruptly taking the girl by the hand. He said that this place was canceled. The magician hugged Giselle tightly and pressed her to him, leaving her in bewilderment. He literally covered the girl with his own back from a huge explosion. He created a protective barrier before everything happened, and then asked in a shout if his employee was okay. But the blonde was fine. Renji too, but he just didn't understand what was happening here. A guy crawled out from there, adjusted his glasses, and said that his bomb exploded by mistake. The moment he saw Giselle Luazban, the stranger began to rejoice in admiration, saying that there were many rumors about her. He said that it was a great honor for him to meet the girl. He introduced himself as Mitchell, or rather the culprit of the explosion of the Imperial Palace, which happened 10 years ago. Most likely, the guy wanted to make a villainous compliment by saying that the reward for Giselle's capture was incredibly large. The boy tried to extend his hands to the blonde, but Renji grabbed them. He had a great desire to blow something up, so he would sell the lady a bomb for a tasty price, which she simply refused. Luazban was not happy that everyone was now very interested in her, which is why the lady is famous in local circles. In any case, the man asked what was wrong with Emily and whether she was inside. He just threw it and led the guys inside that building. He rang the bell when the red-eyed man asked to be left alone. For the blue-eyed girl, it was immoral, that is, just breaking into someone else's room. But inside the room lay that same damned Isabel doll. The girl was scared because there were only damned things in the room. But Renji just smiled and offered to go inside. The lady didn't like it, but the man insisted that she wouldn't die. The girl was afraid of everything in this room, even to the point of meeting the eyes of the damned doll. Seeing that the blonde was afraid of the doll, the brown-haired man kicked her to the side. She flew to the side, and Giselle was worried that this toy would attack them, and she felt strange. Renji smiled sarcastically and said that they couldn't stand here forever, and they needed to hurry up. When the lady looked away, the man pushed the lady against the wall and asked if she wanted him to carry her in his arms. This made the girl blush red and jump away from the magician. He was offended by this gesture, considering it more terrible than these damned things. At this, the girl screamed that she didn't even digest what she ate for breakfast. Walking deeper into the room, she saw an old woman washing clothes. Giselle guessed that this old woman was Emily. The red-eyed man approached the woman and told her that he had come, to which she began to call him baby, even though he was no longer a child. But the blonde noticed that when Renji came here, he seemed to look more tender and comfortable. The old lady asked if her grandson had come to show off his bride. But it turned out to be a joke, which the girl was happy about. They were so similar to grandmother and grandson, and Giselle was interested in what kind of relationship they had. The grandmother guessed that they had come to her to get rid of this strange bruise, even though she hoped that this girl was his daughter-in-law. Emily stated that what is on the villainess's neck is very dangerous. She asked to see the thing that was peeking out from the girl's neck. Giselle thought that she was brought here for a reason, so it was better to show her. The woman asked how they met, and the blonde suddenly remembered that she hadn't even introduced herself. The lady began to tell who she was and what she was, when suddenly Renji said that since she worked a lot, he transferred her to a permanent job. The girl was surprised by this, and also by the fact that she was not told about it. The blue-eyed woman told him that if this topic had not started, the gentleman would simply have remained silent. The old woman laughed, saying that the baby had brought a funny girl to her, but he said that at least it wasn't boring with her. But in any case, this man is an employee of his store. The man told his grandmother that she worked full-time in that damn store. He began to ask if this bruise on the worker's neck could be somehow hidden. The old woman suggested that this place hurt quite a lot, looking at the girl's neck. The employee immediately realized that the case was not easy, and it would be difficult to hide it. But there is no time to despair, because you only have to wait a little. She picked up one of her fabrics, offering to use it. The woman dipped a piece of cloth into the magical solution, beginning to dip it there. She stated that 1 week would be enough for treatment. Red Eyes was very surprised, because making it took longer than he thought. She needs to apply at least 3 layers of magical power to hide the stain. The brown-haired man nodded obediently, saying that they would return in a week. But the old woman stopped them, asking them to sew something for her while they were here. But the guy objected, saying that they were busy and it was time for them to go. The granny began to say that she had poor eyesight and the lady could help her. The naive fool called the gentleman heartless, and she herself began to ask what she needed to do. The woman took out and opened her chest with threads and needles, asking her dear for a favor. Finally, Giselle realized that Emily makes the cursed dolls, and Isabel is also her work. An elderly woman who is very good at threading. She just pretends to be weak, and she likes to watch people suffer. The girl decided that she would not trust anyone else in this city. However, the old one can really save the maiden from a bruise. Red Eyes said it was hard to believe, but it was true. The owner announced that from now on, if a lady wants to go out somewhere, she will go out either with him or with Gilberton. The girl asked what the reason was, and then asked him to tell honestly whether he was cut. She stated that if the guy continues to bully her, then it is better to fire her, because he does not even allow her to rest properly. But he just smiled sweetly and handed the girl a box of goodies, saying that she could go into the room and eat them. Giselle could not hide the fact that she was pleased to receive so much yummy food from her boss. The blonde said that she just wanted to clarify everything, but it was not necessary to buy all this. After a couple of hours, Renji wondered why the girl had not left the room for a long time, suggesting that she was still eating sweets. The door was open, and the man knocked, asking if he could come in. But suddenly, wheezing and moaning for help began to be heard from the room. The head opened the door and shouted if everything was okay with his employee. But as it turned out, there was nothing serious. The lady was crying that Renji took all her sweets. But in fact, the girl was just talking in her sleep. He sat down next to her, realizing how ridiculous it was. The magician wondered if people who raised chickens felt the same way. The man looked around, realizing that the room was not spacious, and the walls seemed to be pressing. But still, Giselle lives here alone and is very accustomed to this kind of life. He concluded that an independent girl is stronger than she seems. Renji placed his hand on the sleeping woman's cheek, straightening a lock of her golden hair. But suddenly, the main one was on top of the girl, hanging right over her. He noticed that the roots of the blonde's hair had turned black, and this was not a mistake. Most likely it was a side effect of black magic. He took Giselle by the chin, examining her face to see if anything else had changed. Since the magician had never met the real Giselle, he did not know what she originally looked like. Looking at that bruise, Renji realized what a freak Dylan was for leaving those marks right on his neck. If he could erase them, he would get rid of them right away. In an instant, the blonde's eyes began to open and looked at the guy in surprise. She immediately blushed, not understanding why the head was coming so close to her while she was sleeping. But he just thought, if the lady has the ability to resist poison, then she is mocking. After all, even if you strangle her a little, bruises remain on her neck. She was so fragile, like a feather. The man instantly said that the girl was not coping well with the role of Giselle Luazbin. She only has her name, so for her he will build the most magnificent cage. The girl looked at the gentleman in bewilderment, asking about the safety of the cage. She said she might seem stupid, but she didn't want to be seen as a bird or a pet. In addition, he suddenly decided to sell birds in his store, but the employment contract was about the sale of damned things. But Renji just laughed, to which the lady said that in that case, let her raise her salary. Red-Eyed concluded that his Giselle was very beautiful and cheerful. When he returns to the mansion, a better cage will need to be prepared. After the blonde talked to Renji, he walked away somewhere. Exploring the flavors of the poison was fun, but when you mix them with real fruit, it's an incredible mix. The blue-eyed girl thought that she really had a unique ability, and where she got it from. This is strange, considering that in the original, Giselle was poisoned, because her current abilities are not the same as the heroine in the original. Suddenly, the lady was distracted from her thoughts by the guy, who immediately apologized. It was a client. It was surprising that he came, because the girl was on vacation. She immediately said that the store was closed today. The buyer insisted, saying he needed something urgently. Giselle could not find what the guy was looking for a long time, because she had not yet sorted out the goods. Suddenly, she finally found what she needed, and the guest from behind released a spider from a jar, right on the worker's back. She felt a slight bite, thinking that they had mosquitoes in the store. But suddenly, she saw that something had fallen, or rather, a spider. The girl got scared and lifted the box up, swinging at the spider. The lady started hitting the floor with a box to kill him. Her eyes filled with tears, and the culprit of all this asked if she was okay. He poked at the spot on the lady's head, showing with his finger where she had been bitten. Seeing the blonde's fear, the stranger apologized for suddenly touching the worker. The blue-eyed girl noticed that blood was coming from the wound. The boy asked if the saleswoman had medicines that could be applied to the bite site, but she was not sure if they were there. He said that he had medicine in his shop, and the girl could come in. He was late in making the acquaintance, and introduced himself as a pharmacist named Tones, who runs a small shop near the northwestern square. The blonde smiled sweetly, and then accidentally dropped the box. The stranger suggested that we go to his shop for medicine. It was not far, and would not take much time, but the girl smiled and refused, because she needed to look after the store. The guy reminded her that the store is closed, but she cannot rest, because she needs to earn money, at least by cleaning. The buyer awkwardly scratched the back of his head and said that he would come next time. The butterflies immediately made their way to Giselle and reminded her to close the store. He opens closed doors as if nothing had happened. Vindria did this too. It's impossible to say otherwise. He's another criminal. In addition, it was very strange that he pressed exactly on the bite site and was able to see where the spider was biting. The bite site was covered with hair. The girl decided to taste her blood, feeling the taste of orange. Suddenly, the blonde realized that the client had slipped her a poisonous spider. The girl dared to tell Vindria about this. She didn't see how he brought in the spider. The butterflies were resting in the corner of the store, so they didn't see much of the situation. There was a possibility that it fell from the ceiling, but since they moved here, Giselle had never seen insects, and if they had a poisonous spider, it was impossible that the butterflies would not have noticed it. The woman also thought it was definitely suspicious. The lady also said that he was a pharmacist, and perhaps he was the charlatan that Sulyan spoke about. According to Sulyan, he sells a simple painkiller, passing it off as a medicine, but strangely, the symptoms disappear and people don't realize it. The blue-eyed girl thought that if a painkiller can be replaced and passed off as a panacea, then poison can be passed off as a cure. The redhead immediately asked if Renji had said anything about Tena. To this, the girl replied that she had not heard anything like that. Then, Vindria concluded that the gentleman was not particularly angry. She admitted that Ten was the one she called the messenger, and was afraid of getting tired in vain if she became attached to him. The lady asked why she wouldn't take Ten as a student, to which she replied that it was useless to teach a mediocre guy about curses. His magic vessel was not deep, and others could only make fun of him. Magic has a distinctive feature. It is determined from birth. The same with the size of a magic vessel. It is determined from birth, as Renji said. Milady asked if it was possible to increase the size of the magic vessel. Vindria replied that there is a way. Although they know about it, they do not use it. Each person has only one vessel, and its size is determined from the very beginning. But there is a way to increase the capacity of the vessel. You need to dig out the inside of the vessel and expand it. A magical vessel is the heart of a magician, a source of power, and allowing someone else's magic, or even the opposite magic, to approach such a place is the same as entrusting your life into someone else's hands. If you make even the slightest mistake, the vessel may crack and you may remain crippled or even die. The girl realized that Renji did not just say that it was dangerous. The magician does not contact her. This made the lady sad, or because she was worried about that strange client. She was worried about him too, and it would have been calmer if he had been nearby. The girl literally said out loud the words that she was bored, when suddenly a man appeared in the store. He approached her and asked what happened to her. He began to wonder why the girl had such a depressed expression on her face. Suddenly, the butterflies began to shout that they had something to report to their owner. But the girl wanted to tell everything when the information was confirmed. After listening to the denunciation from the pets, the red-eyed man got angry and asked what idiot gave the worker a poisonous spider. The blonde awkwardly said that this was just her guess. He said that the lady was there and knew better than anyone, as if it was intuition or guesswork. If Giselle thinks so, then it's true. She didn't think Renji would immediately believe her words. The man promised to let someone go to investigate, so the blonde doesn't have to worry too much. Luazban thanked Renji, but he just sighed and asked where she was bitten. She turned her back to him and showed him the place of the bite. Now there is no bleeding and the swelling has subsided a little. The red-eyed man looked at the neck and then asked if the lady's hobby was to leave useless marks. As it turned out, the store does not have a first aid kit that could contain ointment for treating bites. The blue-eyed woman stated that the boss is obliged to provide emergency medical care at work because she was injured while communicating with a client, and this was an industrial accident. He said that he sees how the girl wants him to take responsibility, and he needs to buy some medicine. He laughed again, because it's enough to just buy the ointment. The man pressed himself against her and inhaled the scent of her body when suddenly she screamed, demanding that he move away. Renji said that his body temperature is low, and if he applies it, the pain will decrease. Afterwards, he smiled sarcastically and asked if it was cold enough or if he needed to do something else. The lady immediately stood up and shouted that no, because the pain had long gone. The man asked where she had gone, but she asked not to talk to her. Giselle locked herself in the room, forbidding the owner to enter there. The brown-haired man pressed himself against the door and called Giselle again. He was pleased, because he heard the girl say that she missed him. The girl blushed, realizing that he had heard everything. He again proved very loudly the fact that he was telling the truth. When Giselle began to deny everything, he began to manipulate, asking if he would then leave from here. At this, the blonde opened the door and asked where the man was going. Red Eyes chuckled, reminding her that the lady wanted to be alone. He patted her on the head and said that he would stay in the store, and she might not be afraid. Giselle reported that she was in a bad mood because a man much taller than her opened a locked door, walked in, threw a poisonous spider at her, and, blushing, invited her into his shop. But in any case, she would be calmer if Renji was there. She stated that they would see each other tomorrow and went back to her room. The magician was pleased that the pharmacist Tones did this. They say he makes excellent medicines, and it's worth going to find out the whole situation. The blonde was touched that the boss looked after the store and also bought breakfast. The man said that he had business in Banhel. Blue Eyes asked what her head does, and it doesn't seem like working next to the head. He said that he manages the store. His store is approved by Wayne. He also does other small things, for example, when mobilizing at an event to replenish the number of people. There are employers everywhere who mobilize powerless workers and make them applaud. And yet, the blue-eyed one asked not to go to large events. Her main job is managing the store. There is no need to go to dangerous events. But Renji did not understand why they were dangerous. To this, the girl replied that dark magicians were gathering there, and this was of course dangerous. The man suddenly asked if in the future there would be an attack on her head at a major event, to which the girl responded positively. Hearing this, the brown-haired man said that then he must not forget and take part. After all, this meant that Dylan would show up at one of these events. The lady had thought before, but the type of people who voluntarily go to dangerous places, The magician asked Giselle to return with Gilbert to the store, and he would go about his business. The blonde began to worry that Renji went to meet Dylan, but if the boss throws a stone at the back of Dylan's head and he gets amnesia, the girl will also be more comfortable. Suddenly, a medic showed up and started shouting to Giselle. He told her that trouble was coming because the gentleman was going to meet that guy. The man said he heard that he was harassing his employee and came to look at his face. Red-Eyed looked at him and then menacingly asked who he was. The guy smiled and said that he was surprised because he didn't know that Giselle Luazben was an employee of his store. But neither he nor Giselle remembered his inconspicuous face. He said that this maniac was worth nothing, to which the pharmacist said that if it weren't for him, he and the girl would not have even met. He assumed that the lady had successfully mastered the forbidden technique. Because of the man's anger, everything began to collapse around him, and he himself wondered whether it was worth killing him right here. But it looks like he knows something, and we can't kill him now. He assumed that Giselle did not remember him. Renji would definitely explain everything to her in detail about the forbidden technique. The doctor said that he could not understand her current behavior. Luazben looked too ordinary for someone who signed a contract with a being from another dimension. And it's not like the forbidden technique failed. Then perhaps they had the wrong information about the forbidden technique from the beginning. The brown-haired man had a strange, familiar feeling. At first, it seems that this person is talking to the interlocutor, but at some point, he gets lost in his thoughts and mutters under his breath. But the magician knew for sure that he had definitely killed that man. The guys observed that the gentleman was indeed in that shop. The doctor admired the gentleman because now he would drive away the charlatan. The lady said that now this is a popular place. Perhaps he just came to look around, and their director is surprisingly a very rational person. But the guy said that Mr. Renji only comes into stores for two reasons. Either he needs to buy something, or he makes a fuss. The boy suggested that if the lady did not believe her, she should argue with him. They both bet 1 gold piece that Renji would drive the guy away. She understood that that man was a dark magician who ran the store. But from the very beginning, he didn't pretend that he was Wayne's brother on his mother's side. And Wayne let him get away with it, even if his brother was defeated. Gossip Girls also discussed the fact that Wayne entrusted him with the keys to the safe. The blonde began to question the ladies, who told her that there were rumors that he visited Wayne's mansion quite often. In addition, it turned out that that girl is a fan of Giselle Luazben. She took her hands and asked if she was an employee of a haberdashery store, and as a fan, the girl would like to work with someone nearby. They began to ask the girl what secrets she was hiding and what she could tell. But Giselle tried to break away from her, asking her to let go of her hand. It felt strange to ask for hiring information, but the gossip girl responded to these words by calling the situation wretched. She called the girl a versatile criminal who became famous for her slightly beautiful face. The guys watched everything, thinking that a fight was brewing. At this, Giselle's friends shouted for her to win. The stranger said that with such a smooth face, the lady managed to get a job in that store. The blonde replied that these words only flattered her, but it seems that the fan was deeply mistaken, because their store selects employees based only on their skills. The girl said that she has no abilities, so taking out anger on others is stupid, and instead, it is better to develop your skills. This fight was noticed by a guy in the building because it was noisy outside. He said that the person responsible for their conversation was outside. The man said that you need to ask the culprit personally. The brown-haired man saw the girl and quietly whispered her name. He wondered what Giselle had called with a forbidden technique. Renji recognized the girl with whom his employee was arguing. The man called on Bedro, but not to resolve the dispute outside, but to detain the culprit of the conflict. The lady held a knife behind her back, saying that Giselle is no better than others. She pulled out a weapon and stated that the girl, other than being a store employee, was worth nothing. Noticing the knife that was literally pointed at her, the blonde realized that she needed to run. But before she could finish her thought, Renji appeared right in front of her. The blade fell to the floor. The man asked what else the attacker would tell about Giselle. He grinned, realizing that the lady thought that he had picked the worker without choosing, but she just fell to the floor and instantly ran away, whispering a negative answer. The brown-haired man turned to the girl and asked why she was here. The lady honestly answered that her friends said that the gentleman had gone to drive tons away. The red-eyed man leaned over to the lady and asked if she really wanted to stop him, but she answered the question with a question. Or rather, why should she stop the gentleman? Giselle said that she was not so kind and conscientious, She came to see if her owner was in danger. Renji smiled, and she wondered if she had responded selfishly. Also, could Mr. Tones be innocent? The girl also asked if the gentleman had left because he had finished with the money. He said that while the owner of the haberdashery store was trashing the pharmacy stall, a nearby store employee was also interfering with sales, and he went out to see what was going on. The girl was very offended and said that these people started the fight first. The boss said that the desire to help the boss is admirable, but she may not do what she was not asked to do. And if she wanted to take revenge on her, then it would be better to just fight, and he would hold her. She asked those two to explain it to him because they had seen everything from the very beginning. But they just turned away, and the doctor even said that he told the lady to moderate her character. The brown-haired man said that they needed to return to the store, and there they would agree. His gaze fell on the pharmacist, who was bound by black magic. A couple of minutes later, Renji reappeared in the shop to explain everything he wanted. He left the others in the store, although it was difficult to leave them. Red Eyes asked what the result was, to which he was told that a variable had arisen. He was told that as a side effect of magic, there were memory gaps. It is especially difficult to find memories from the last 3 months, as if they were a different person. This was definitely dark magic. He considered the possibility that it was light magic. There was no spell in light that would erase memory so quickly. Renji said that they don't know. Recently, no magical power was felt in the store, and this freak also seemed defenseless. But if it was light magic, then it could deceive the eyes of a dark magician. It was strange whether the light magician was really involved in this. Dylan or Viviana, or maybe someone else, is involved in this. It wasn't a particularly important memory. It looks like Giselle Loisbane left a strong impression. The assistant reported that he still had a strong desire to stuff her and put her on display. The brown-haired man asked to make sure that he could not crawl out under any circumstances. He stated that if this insect caught his eye, it would end badly for him. From that day on, rumors circulated that Mr. Tons had closed his shop and disappeared from Bonhill. The girl asked if he was sure that it was not he who drove Toons away. Renji said that perhaps he was just bored with running the shop. Giselle said that last time they even dismantled the goods, although it was because he did not serve the customer well, and there is nothing wrong with things breaking while doing business in the area. But the lady did not have clients who would break the goods. Brown said it was a dry goods store approved by Wayne. No one will destroy such a place, even though the rest of the stores are not licensed. The blonde thought that in such a place they received personal approval from the head, and he really is the closest person. Suddenly, the blue-eyed girl said that she wanted to ask something. Yesterday, she accidentally heard rumors about him that he controls the keys of the safe and that he often visits the leader's mansion. The boss replied that he sometimes looks in there. Giselle thought that the man was too carefree, but he lives in the head's house. But the guy denied this because he has his own mansion. By the way, Renji suggested that the girl go to work from his house. The girl did not understand this sentence, thinking that she had hearing problems, or it seemed to her. He smiled and said that she could go to work from his mansion. Giselle was extremely surprised that her boss had now offered her to live together. Renji didn't see any problem with this. But they were. Because according to the lady, an adult man and woman in the same house is too much. The man admitted that he saw a poisonous spider in Tanza's store. The one who bit the girl. Obviously, Giselle was his target. And since this happened, the girl should be more careful in future. During working hours, next to Gilberton and other guys, but someone might break into the bedroom at night. Such people are not even afraid of Wayne. The blonde said that it seemed better to change places for the night, as the boss said. In the room, when the owner left, the butterflies tried to convince the lady that the gentleman's mansion was very cozy and classy. She noticed that they were quietly trying to convince her to move into the mansion. But suddenly, the girl was informed that the magic of protection was broken. The pets screamed for the girl to hide because someone had broken into the store. The girl immediately rushed under the bed, while the unfamiliar silhouette looked to see if there was anyone in the store. There was a light magician in the store who saw butterflies spraying poisonous pollen. The blue-eyed girl understood that she could not make a sound. The butterflies were attacked. Renji would find out and would come soon. But suddenly, a girl looked under the same bed, blessing her with a crazy smile. The lady was very strong, so she began to pull the worker out from under the bed. Giselle said the store is currently closed, and entry without permission is considered trespassing. But to this, the white magician only began to laugh. She asked to consider her a friend who came to have fun, because they had met a couple of days ago. Luazben remembered that this lady was the one with whom they had argued that day. The stranger said that the blonde need not be afraid, because she could not kill her. She spent a lot of energy because of the magic at the entrance, because the boss installed strong magic in the form of protection. But suddenly, Giselle pushed the madwoman into the abyss of shock, because she sharply asked who it was. She wasn't talking about that girl, but about who controls her. The girl was surprised that her victim was so attentive. The white magician suggested that maybe the lady tested the forbidden technique, as she said, and therefore side effects appear in the form of changes in character. The stranger shouted that Giselle must become such that someone would want to devour her. She could praise her for bringing Luazben closer to Renji. The blonde screamed that this was nonsense, and she didn't understand what they were talking about. The crazy woman wanted the girl to become food for a person. Blue Eyes realized that the original Giselle had an inspiration, or someone else, who encouraged her to perform the forbidden technique. Therefore, the target of the forbidden technique, Renji. The mad woman was surprised that the blonde was still alive, although everything here was filled with poisonous dust. Suddenly, a voice that belonged to Renji rang out in a low tone. He instantly threw the girl aside using magic. The girl, through tears, rushed to the boss. She said that the butterflies had died long ago, and the man had been walking for a very long time. But she also thanked him for coming, at least now. The man suddenly asked if the lady Giselle Luazben was true. The brown-haired woman ordered that she not even jokingly imitate Giselle. To this, with her hand on her heart, the blonde declared that she was Giselle, who was an employee of the store. The boss said that the girl wasn't trying to harm her. She was just stalling for time by talking. From the very beginning, she came here to contact her. This lady is the one who started the forbidden technique with Giselle. The girl asked who he was, because she had just heard about some kind of technique. Most likely, Renji had been here for a long time and was simply eavesdropping on the conversation. He recalled that the girl said that she knew the future of important people and also asked to save her. The blonde realized that the gentleman now doubted her. She knew that he thought that the blue-eyed one was in cahoots with this stranger, and with the future that she knew she would limit him. Luazben knows that in this situation, she can be easily suspected. But it really wasn't her. Because of the forbidden technique, she lost her memory and doesn't even understand what that girl was talking about. But Renji was sure that Giselle was just a bait aimed at him. It seems that things didn't go according to that man's plan. That man wanted the worker to do her original job perfectly. The employee does not know the reason why Luazben resorted to the forbidden technique. This was not mentioned in the book, and neither did Renji, nor the light magician who provoked Giselle. Because all this was not so important, she wondered if she had really read a book about this world, if this world would really follow its contents. From the very beginning, there was a she who read a book. There were many questions, namely why the girl became Giselle Luazben. She added that he may not believe her, but she admits that in this situation she can be suspected. The girl literally cried because she understood that she could not prove that she was faithful to the master. But the girl explained this by saying that she cries when she is angry and irritated. Both in the past and now, the blonde tried so hard to give it her all, tried to adapt, and for some reason, everything is not always as simple as it seems. The man suddenly asked if the lady was really afraid of him, afraid that he would kill her. But she burst into tears, asking that if he was going to kill her, it would be better without pain. But he replied that he was not going to do that. The boss said that he had finished decorating the chicken coop. He built her the largest and most beautiful chicken coop in the world. The lady guessed that the red-eyed man saved her in order to find out what was behind it, about to counterattack using her as bait. Now, the gentleman understood what Giselle thought of him. He asked why the girl had so many wounds, since he doesn't even know how to use healing magic. Fortunately, that woman had no intentions of killing, otherwise the blonde could have died. The man should check to see if this girl has anything dangerous, so he should stay back. Obviously, at first, he suspected the blue-eyed girl, but now, for some reason, he changed his mind. She wondered if it was because of her tears. If you think about it, his ambition immediately disappeared when she shed a tear. Suddenly, the worker asked if the boss thought her face was beautiful, but the man firmly stated that the lady was not particularly beautiful, only her actions were beautiful. Renji also added that Giselle is especially ugly when she cries. Therefore, when she really wants to cry, she should cry only in front of him. After all, if something makes you angry and irritated, you don't need to hide, but go to it. The brown-haired man will solve all problems. Just not to see the ugly face, the girl instantly noticed that her body was burning, and something incomprehensible was happening to it next to its owner. She asked what to do with the lying lady, and whether she should be taken to a hospital. To this, the man replied that she was dead, and had been dead from the very beginning. She took protection at the entrance with her body, and could not stay alive. It turns out that all this time, Luazbin was talking to the corpse. The girl said that she would immediately move home to her boss, Viviana's temporary treatment center. The heroine told someone that they should rest for a few days, and their health would return to normal. Viviana was still busy saving the world. The girl was very happy to hear these words from her teacher. They had not seen each other for a long time, so the lady asked what happened. The reason he came here is because he wonders if she dated Renji after that day. But the redhead didn't even know where this man was, or what he was doing. In fact, the teacher seemed to know his location. He said that the small seed that he had sown in the past had finally sprouted. The blonde explained that the greed of the dark magicians began to bring clouds into the world in order to drive them away. He planted a small seed between them. The girl was delighted that her mentor still cared about this world. If she had been able to repair his damaged skin that day, and if she had been able to restore his magical power, everything would have been different. But the man immediately declared that he survived only thanks to the main character. But another one of his students lost his way forever. Renji was definitely in league with the dark magicians, perhaps even becoming close to Wayne Eyre. The lady suggested that this required extraordinary abilities. The teacher suggested that he most likely found a way, and if you think about the cruelty of dark magicians, they could also use an inhuman form. And I also wonder if the cup is damaged, whether it is possible to stay alive only by continuously absorbing magical power. If he could have survived by hunting the magical power of mages like they did to them that day, then there is no way that Dylan could not have found the guy who became a serial killer, or he could have found another way that they didn't know about. No, the girl, so that the mentor would cool down from such persuasions, offered to drink tea. She also asked what kind of seed he planted with the dark magicians, but he replied that the name of this seed is Giselle Luazbin. If they find Giselle, they can find Renji. Seeing the magician's mansion, the girl thought that this was a short-term arena. If this is Renji's mansion, then how big is Wayne's? But as it turns out, the head himself gave him this house. He extended his hand to the lady, saying that if she no longer doubts, then let her follow him, and he will show her his mansion. Inside, everything was huge and looked very expensive. The man immediately said that there was no one in the house except the two of them. All this was due to the fact that Renji does not trust people to let into his home. This mansion is the safest place for him, and he will not allow anyone to live here except a lady. He said that Giselle was the first to visit here, the first one to enter this house and intend to live here. Luazbin suddenly asked if she was the housekeeper by chance. After all, this is a part-time job, and you will have to sign a contract. But it was just a joke, because Giselle is here, because if the enemy attacks, they will be able to react quickly. Suddenly, he asked if the lady liked flowers. After all, there is a large garden around the house that she could see. The girl didn't understand why Renji always said such misleading phrases lately. The man took her to the magical garden that the butterflies were talking about. There was no need for servants in the mansion, because everything here is controlled by magic. The blonde asked if the guy uses so much magic. Isn't it hard for him? But if you immediately get your magical power back, there is nothing difficult about it. This is possible because all the flowers in this garden are made of magic. The girl saw an empty vase and decided to collect a bouquet from wildflowers growing nearby. She handed the vase to the brown-haired man, saying that they could be placed in the room. He wanted to put it in his bedroom and ordered the lady to follow him. When asked why they would go to the bedroom, the boss replied that they usually sleep there, but the bed has many uses. Suddenly, having uttered this phrase, Renji asked why Giselle's face turned red. The magician just laughed, and then said that he just wanted to give something away. Walking inside, the girl was surprised by the lack of furniture. There was no desk, no chair, nothing except a bed in the room. There were no photographs or decorations either. A bedroom that looked gloomy and lonely. The lady asked why he decorated the hallway so beautifully, but there was only one bed in the bedroom. The man replied that he broke everything except the bed. He is too hot-tempered, even though it was a long time ago. Even if it happens again, Giselle will not see it. Renji handed the lady the handkerchief they had soaked at his grandmother's. This should be worn when you go out somewhere, but not worn around your neck at home. The magic in the mansion was confused, and in the house, no one would find the lady. This is a secluded place that no one except those invited can find. The house was also full of food and groceries. The boss himself is not ready. He just bought all this yesterday. But before that, it was empty. The girl asked what he had been eating all this time. Having learned that the man ate little, she began to prove to him that meals are an important part of life. But he explained that originally, the bodies of magicians relied more on magical power, so food did not matter. The girl didn't know how to cook, but she would try to make sure that the two of them could eat one portion each. Renji wondered if Giselle was once again taking on something that she wasn't even asked to do. She doesn't rest, even when she has a day off. The boss instantly snapped his fingers, and a creature resembling a little cook appeared. It was a golem, a cook who didn't have to be human. But the lady was only worried that it was possible to abuse magic like that. To this, he replied that this is possible here. There is a magical garden here. If not for this place, the man would have long since died or become crippled. Brown also warned that when the girl went to work, Gilberton would be waiting at the entrance. They will live together, solve work at home with the help of magic, and will pick him up from work every day, just like a husband caring for his wife. The girl just directly said that she doesn't understand why they treat her so well. She said that she knew that the man was sure that she was not the real Giselle Luazbin. The blue-eyed girl asked if Renji considered her dangerous, and he answered positively. After all, whoever is in this body, he likes the one whom he now sees in front of him. This mansion, like a fortress, is no different from his will or the unconscious itself. Defenselessly welcomes her because she is dangerous, and even more dangerous than she thinks. The red-eyed man suggested that the lady should go and rest, because she still had to work tomorrow. When he said that the girl was dangerous, he meant her. Or there was another meaning. After the incident with the poisonous spider, it was scary to open the store. Of course, it's good that the three dark magicians take turns staying in the store. The boss must have asked them to do this, and he was probably annoyed by it. The butterflies asked not to eat Sulyan's medicine, because after it, her stomach would hurt badly. The guy was shocked that Giselle was talking to them, saying that you can't talk to them just by knowing the name, because she's not even a magician. Luazbin's physique must be favorable for magi. The doctor understood that he would not be able to take blood for study, because even if he accidentally wounded her, the boss would kill him. Giselle wasn't wrong. Be it Sulyan, Gilberton, or Vindria, all three are afraid of Renji. The girl suddenly asked if Renji was in first place among them, to which the boy replied that yes, that's right, the boss is stronger than all of them. The blonde was amazed that their superiors were ranked first. Sulyan said that if it weren't for the antidote that the brown-haired man gave him, he would have died. So he decided to help him in everything. This was strange, because in the original, the one who saved Sulyan and received his loyalty was Wayne. The girl asked about the boy's envy that their director was close to Wayne Eyre, but he didn't understand why he should be jealous. She kept asking whether Renji was more capable than Windria or Beidro. It was obvious, because these two couldn't even compare to the little toe on his foot. But when the girl started asking about Wayne, the doctor said that he suddenly had an urgent matter. The girl asked the butterflies if they could tell her about their boss. For example, what does he do? His life story and something like that. But they told Giselle to go and ask him personally. Although they do not understand human relationships, the girl was the first one he invited to the mansion, and from the outside it seems like they have a very close relationship. The man returned to the store and asked if anything had happened while he was at the meeting. She began to say something, when suddenly the boss took her cheek and asked if she had always had a double eyelid. The girl immediately began to look in the mirror to see what had changed. But suddenly, Renji took the mirror from her and asked if she was done with her business at the store. The blue-eyed girl gave a positive answer and asked to look in the mirror. But the boss insisted that they go eat the prepared food. But suddenly, Beidro immediately burst into the store. Someone broke into the store again, destroying the door. Giselle looked at the stranger and saw silver hair, an appearance that screamed that this person was dangerous to touch. She immediately realized that from the description, the man looked like Wayne. So the man believed to be Wayne is calling Renji Overlord. In addition, the man uses magic with ease. In addition to having a bad relationship with the trio of villains, he has a bad relationship with Dylan. Giselle had a headache and said that she would go to her room, but he took her hand, telling her that she would not go anywhere. Wayne was surprised that Renji wanted to take a manic employee with him. The blonde didn't know where they were going, but she wanted to stay, because she was of no use anyway. Suddenly, Renji asked the lady how she liked Wayne. The brown-haired man ordered her to tell her first impression directly to him, which was very cruel. Luazben realized that everyone thinks Wayne is the leader, but in reality, Renji is the boss here. The girl did not recognize the gray eminence, even when he was next to her, and thought that she was lucky that she did not contact him. But the novel said that the eminence grise is Wayne Eyre, a handsome man with silver hair. Red-Eyed said that now that the blonde knows everything, he simply cannot leave her. Before going where they wanted, the brown-haired man asked the lady to put something on. He handed her the robe. There was no good in running away, so it was worth being close to him. The girl did not understand how she could simply enter the portal without knowing the destination. The man gave her his hand, telling her to hold on to him tightly. She thought for a minute that now she is connected with all the important people from the poison apple. The place was very strange. Everyone looked busy and angry. Wayne acted in public like he was the boss, including his acting skills. He informally addressed a superior person, and the girl thought that this was impossible. The blonde asked to wait, because it seemed to her that these people needed help. While the dark magicians were holding a meeting, they were attacked. They hastily throw away the materials to leave this place. No one knows who the boss really is, and she will have to pretend that she is helping so as not to arouse suspicion. The boss immediately asked why the employee was not surprised by the situation, but she replied that she had recently experienced shock. But in this situation, you can't just stand there. You need to do something. The man simply destroyed the box and asked him to clean up Mr. Wayne's office. The brown-haired man walked forward, and the girl tried to catch up with him, when suddenly they heard a strange sound. There were a lot of doors in the mansion. The red-eyed man stopped abruptly in front of the wall. The cardinal's office could not be in a simple place, so the wall was just a defense. The blonde asked if she could burn all the documents that were here. But this is too much, because all this can be instantly removed with magic. He turned sharply to the villainess and asked what she thought. Why he took her with him. It was only the intention to show what kind of person Renji is. The lady said before that he should not go to large meetings, and she knows how that meeting will go in the future. In the second part of the original work, a great meeting takes place where the main character, and the dark side meet. It was a massacre carried out in the center of the city. Thanks to Wayne's powerful magic, Dylan Stacy always misses. The boss sat the girl behind a chair and asked her to look. She asked what she should look at, but he replied that now there would be something interesting. The man created a magic circle in the floor. His hair began to turn silver, and he asked how she was. The magician said that now his silver hair is beautiful and shiny. The blonde realized how wonderful Renji was, that he destroyed the country. He is also very handsome with dark hair, but silver hair couldn't be more perfect. Viviana has vision problems if she could choose Dylan when such a cute villain exists. The man repeated his question again, to which he received an admiring response. The girl couldn't find words to describe how much she liked the master's new appearance. The blonde said that they had finished their business and could return. What was strange was that he came here just to show this magic and get rid of the documents. Well, or there was another reason. In such a short time, Renji managed to surround the entire place with a barrier. Surprisingly, they keep order in this world well. But the lady was already waiting for Bidro and Reggie, who suddenly opened a portal. This was a direct abuse of power, although no one will know about it. The man lowered himself to the girl's ear and whispered for her to take care of the Lord. Dylan was angry because there was just a little more time left, and he would have broken this damn barrier. He thought that it was Wayne's doing, if not him. Then such a strong barrier could not have been created in such a short time. A power that several dozen light magicians cannot handle. Dark magicians tend to have vain ambitions when they far exceed them. And Renji, of course, is the same. Suddenly, a guy ran up to the blonde with an important letter. Most likely it was from Vivian. The conquest took longer than expected. The lady wrote that a lot of time had passed, and she was starting to worry, hoping that he would return unharmed. She conveyed that the mentor provided information that Renji was with Giselle. The hero realized that then, in the cart, that magic did not appear to him. At first, he thought that the magic was familiar to him. It was Renji, a traitor who was jealous of the magic of Vivian and the mentor, so he took everything from the mentor. They can no longer stand by and watch as dark magicians steal other people's magical power. The mentor, who has not yet recovered from his wound, must have returned to bring order to this chaotic world. The man asked to get ready to activate the tracking technology. He wanted to find a trace of the order of the world and their past. Giselle felt very tired because she had gone through several portals. She wondered if the Lord's hair would be the same. The blonde was worried if Renji used so much magic. Could he do magic? She noticed that he was in a bad mood. The girl assumed that her boss was very tired. The blue-eyed woman suggested that he rest, when suddenly he grabbed his chest. A couple of moments, and Luazban sees his boss lying in the magical garden, as if unconscious. Giselle immediately rushed to his side and asked if he was okay. She wanted to take him to the room, but he said that if he stayed surrounded by magical flowers, it would all go away. But the girl started screaming, because she couldn't leave her sick master here. The man said everything was fine and immediately fainted. The butterflies said that no one would be able to come here anyway, and the owner should be moved to the center of the garden. His magic is now unstable, and so he must rest in a place filled with magic. It was not for nothing that the blonde thought that he was using up too much magic. He shouldn't have abused it like that. The hair color changed too because he used a lot of magic. Milady carried the chief to the center of the garden. The butterflies suddenly began to discuss why the man called them if there was no danger. Because he called them, his recovery would be even slower, and they blamed Giselle for this. After all, lately the master has been calling them because of her, and even called them when his magic is unstable. The lady drooped, because in order for them to clarify the situation, if he suddenly fainted, she would be confused. Suddenly, the girl noticed that magic emanated from the flowers. She realized that his body was absorbing the magic emanating from the flowers, and thereby being restored. The butterflies said that the blonde should leave, and from now on, only they will protect the owner. But it was strange for her to leave a person in trouble. This incident was not the first, because he always lay down in the garden and returned. The girl asked if this often happens to the boss. Usually if a wizard uses a lot of magic, this happens to him. But a man does not always call for pets, and it is difficult to know about everything. The butterflies suddenly horrified the lady, saying that Renji would soon rise up and go punish the traitors. The blue-eyed girl began to beg those to tell her everything, but they couldn't tell what wounds Renji held within himself. The girl decided not to worry, because no matter how worried she was, nothing would change. He didn't know if his pain was really worth something. Yesterday, after we got to the garden, he woke up alone. The red-eyed man had a white towel on his forehead, and his hair had returned to normal. When the lady saw that the gentleman had woken up, she was very happy. To begin with, she brought some soup and asked me to eat. Suddenly, she dropped it all from her hands. But Renji helped with the help of magic. Giselle was very angry about this, because the boss again used magical power, preventing her from falling. The ruler was surprised that my lady did not listen to the butterflies when they said that he could simply be left in the garden. Giselle reported that fainting after using magic is not normal. Luazban was much more attentive than he thought. Or there is something that she wants to receive in return for caring. The girl reminded the gentleman that she was able to enter the mansion because he trusted her. But it was strange that the man did not expect even this from her. Red-Eyed said that this is faith, feelings, and she should not respond to faith. And not expecting anything is very natural. Hearing this, the girl said that she understood Renji's feelings. But he didn't even understand why the lady suddenly got angry. She explained this by saying that it's not that big of a deal to treat them like they're special, mislead them, and then look at them like they don't expect anything when it matters most. But Renji still didn't understand the reason. The worker looked away and stated that she had feelings, and she behaves this way because she has developed feelings for her boss. She also added that it would be nice if her answer was useful. Giselle announced that she would go to her room, but Renji also had something to say. He sat her down in front of him and asked if she had slept at all. These were the gentleman's guesses, based on the bruises under her eyes. The magician asked Luazban to get some sleep quickly. He used magic to make the girl fall asleep faster. It had been a long time since Renji had forgotten about such things. In an instant, the brown-haired man noticed that light began to emanate from the place that had lost its magic, although it should collapse and be drawn into the ground. This is happening for the first time in a long time that the red-eyed one lives here. Giselle was not a magician, and she had no magical powers. He thought that the one sleeping in his arms was a very interesting creature. Without fully knowing the structure of the mansion, she collected so many things and tried to take care of it. And she said things that if someone hears, you won't get into trouble. In that case, it would be worth responding to her confession. The blonde woke up in a warm bed. She was met by her boss, who prepared dinner. The man began to worry that the lady had been sleeping for a long time and might be hungry. The girl began to eat, sitting down at the table and folding her hands. The brown-haired man said that now the girl looks more like Giselle. Suddenly, the golem presented the lady with meat, which was quite tasty. As it turned out, Luazbin gave the cook a name, or rather a numbered one. Renji suddenly asked if Giselle was a spirit. This guess was because she would not die if she took poison. She could taste poisons, she knew the future. And in general, the girl did not look like an ordinary person. Also, something unusual happened after the employee showed up. Gradually, the boss developed a pure interest in her. The blonde immediately realized that this was an ambiguous phrase. He was very interested in her being, to which she replied that Giselle had simply gone crazy. The man began to wonder what the girl was like, and what she did in her world. He wanted to know everything, from the very beginning. This phrase also sounded ambiguous, but she perceived it normally, but any girl would definitely. In this case, to be fair, the boss should also tell about himself. She is also interested in a lot about him. It seems he has forgotten, but she only found out yesterday who he really is. It was very difficult for a dark magician to tell the whole truth. But the lady was very surprised and delighted when she received consent. The man said that if this is a manifestation of her interest, then as much as necessary. Renji sounded like he was flirting. He agreed to answer all the questions if she would answer all of his. The lady was curious to know what happened to Renji in the past. When dark magic appeared, the guy was only 8 years old. He was a child whose soul was devoured by the devil, and they decided to kill him before he became a dark magician. His father himself swung the blade at him, but the magic that the boy radiated was stronger than those warriors. In that state, the guy ran away and was immediately marked as a target for destruction. The girl said through tears that they were all cruel if they wanted to kill the child. There was no talk about this in the novella. With such a past, it is not surprising that he became a villain. Maybe the boss got hurt while escaping and was in bad condition, which is why he fainted like this after using magic. She reminded the brown-haired man that he lost consciousness yesterday. The man said that changes in his body happened later, after receiving the help of the Archmage and his students. The girl remembered that it was Vivian and Dylan's turn, and so, the gentleman said that around here they would stop talking about him, and it was Giselle's turn. The blue-eyed one said that he knows about what happened, and that she was called. She found out thanks to him, but the guy was not interested in what happened after her death. Renji talked about what happened to him in the action, and would like to know the same about Giselle. The brown-haired man should have known under what circumstances the lady became Luazbin, as well as about her ability to poison, but he would like to know about her herself. It was not necessary to talk about Giselle. The man wants to hear about what she was like in the past world. In the past, the girl was always an ordinary person. She had no talents or abilities. She was an ordinary person. In this case, Renji wanted to know about her as an ordinary person. He said that he was interested in the girl. The girl said that the owner's words could be understood in a completely different way, and if someone heard, they would definitely misunderstand. But he didn't even understand how someone could misunderstand the words that he was interested in her. Giselle was embarrassed to speak, but she said that the day had come when she said these words with her lips. Even if she was teased for being too shy, there was nothing she could do about it. Having said all these words, the lady lowered her head down in anticipation of new jokes, when suddenly she saw the surprised expression on the gentleman's face. She couldn't even think that the man meant the same thing as she did. The girl admitted that she initially did not think that he was interested in her in this way, because she thought he liked Viviana. This turned out to be nonsense, because she's involved in the future that Giselle spoke about. Therefore, the blonde thought that he was not mutually in love with the main character, and hated Dylan. Judging by his dislike, it was indeed true. This novel continued to crumble. In truth, in the place where the lady lived, there was a prophecy about this world, in which the future of some people was described, and it was said that Renji was secretly in love with Vivian and was feuding with Dylan. It was just a fairy tale, but some details matched. The brown-haired man said with offense that he had never been interested in the main character. Then the dark magician, who in the original is in love with Vivian, fell in love with Giselle, means that the blue-eyed one will play the role of the main character. The lady literally burst into tears, thinking that the boss would now want to imprison her in a dark room where light does not penetrate and would visit her in the morning or evening. If you think about it, the book was for adults, and the girl didn't really want to live like that. But Renji thought that it was the lady who had such preferences. The prophecy said that he did this to Vivian, but the man never did this, and did not plan to do this in the future. The blonde realized that the Renji she knows is kinder than he seems and more caring. Suddenly, the magician asked if the employee would be with him, even if he didn't have to go through all this trouble at all. It was a strong self-confidence, to which Giselle responded that she was not so frivolous. From the very beginning, due to the forbidden technique aimed at him, the lady was summoned. Whether the blonde knows it or not, they are connected. In addition, she said that in order to live like Giselle, she would become the subordinate of the most powerful villain. And in addition, this powerful villain has a strong interest in her. The blue-eyed girl realized that it was so logical that she gave in. But in any case, Luosban does not start relationships in the workplace. He said that he could fire her and leave her in the basement of the mansion until their relationship became the way he would like. But he won't do it because he really doesn't want to. The lady will be by his side in any case, and from the very beginning, until she spoke about the relationship, he didn't even think about it. The worker apologized for going too far. The girl realized that her life not only sucked, but was a complete failure when a doctor approached her and asked how she was feeling. He asked her for a small drop of blood, to which she agreed, half asleep. Gilberton shouted that Sulyan should not be given blood thoughtlessly. Vindria asked what Giselle was thinking, to which she shared that she had a serious problem. She said that her friend was liked by a superior at work, and the friend was confused because although the superior was handsome, he had problems with his character, but he still treated her well, even before he told her about his interest. For your information, she added that due to his profession, he has a high probability of premature death. She is disgusted to death by this superior handsome man with a bad character, because of whom those around him are afraid of him, and who has a high chance of dying prematurely. The doctor said that if you like it to death, then you like it. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. Suddenly, the brunette noticed that all the conditions listed by Giselle seemed very familiar. They began to argue whether this situation with Giselle was true, to which she replied that Mr. Renji told Gilberton to see him, and Sulyan today has the only patient by appointment this month. They ran away, saying they would pray for her friend. Vindria suddenly asked if the girl really disliked Mr. Renji to death. She was burned by the fact that the lady had no friends at all. The woman stated that everyone who knows Renji knows that he is interested in her. She said that there was no reason to worry, because it was good to be close to the head and use him. After all, he doesn't ask for anything special, but will give you everything you want. This man used to resist even talking to the girl. Perhaps he himself doesn't know what he wants. The redhead said that dark magicians are so far from relationships. For them, there is enough entertainment in life thanks to dark magic. She also added that she got into this field not so long ago, so she enjoyed everything she could and has no regrets, and is simply doing research. Suddenly, Ten came into the store, and Vindria asked what happened to him, but he said that the atmosphere outside the dark was strange. Looking out the window, the woman ordered the store doors to be closed.